Start the meeting, Stephanie. I'd like to call the Board of County Commissioners meeting to order July 20th, 2022. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we do have some citizen input today. I don't know if Doreen Ty is in the room. Is she in the room? Is she on Zoom, Stephanie? I have a request to speak from her. Okay, all right. Sounds good. And we also, is there anyone in the room that wanted to speak? We needed a blue form filled out. Thank you. We do have a letter opposing the expansion of the Sisters Airport from Mr. Bracken. So thank you for that. And I believe there is an article on the front page of the Sisters Nugget this morning about that issue. So no other issues at this time. Consent agenda?
I'd like to pull item 3 from the consent agenda
For discussion today?
for discussion.
That's fine, yeah, I'll support that. So I'll move item 1 and 2 on consent agenda.
Okay,
Second.
all right, second. Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So let's go to item 3 then.
I'd like my fellow commissioners to consider again accepting the federal funds available for COVID response to make these limited duration positions longer to assist with recruitment and retention efforts. What we have done so far is approved a three-month extension so that now we have health services going out in the end of July for positions that end at the end of March. And we all know that in this workforce environment, in this recruitment retention environment, floating a position for 8.25 months is not going to produce any candidates. It will be a waste of an exercise to even advertise these positions. The federal government has offered funds for COVID response that will allow us to make those positions longer in duration, which will make recruitment and retention efforts much, much easier. So that's my proposal.
Okay, is Dan Emerson available?
We can certainly reach out to Dan or
Okay,
to Wayne.
I mean, I just-
and schedule this for later in the meeting, or
Sure.
if they're available
Yeah.
now, whatever you prefer.
What do you, Commissioner DeBonne, did you have any comments?
We had a pretty good discussion on this. It was, kind of that call of the Board of Commissioners, and obviously it's not, all three of us, but I support this proposal getting to March 23 and having a discussion within the next 6 months, and that was my intention originally.
I'll just say again that putting out a position announcement for a position that ends in 8 months, 8.5 months, 8 months and a week, something like that, when the announcement has to go out and then they have to solicit applicants and then they have to vet people and then they have to interview them, it's a waste of resources to run a recruitment like that. We're not going to turn up anyone, and we'll have made the Health Services Department jump through a bunch of hoops for no reason.
I'm just wondering if these positions are currently, if any of them have been filled. So just, or if they're actually new positions. So perhaps we could postpone this for a bit and find that out.
Okay. Would be happy to discuss farther into the meeting.
Okay, great. I'll see when Dan's available then. All right. So we have action item is the deliberations on the board ordinance 2022-009, referring a measure to the electors to prohibit the establishment of psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service center operators within unincorporated Deschutes County.
So deliberations for the three of us, I'm in support of putting this on the measure in November. We can, understand more as time goes on. If it's the right thing to do, I would really appreciate guidance by the voters of Deschutes County. I know we saw a lot of passionate, positive support testimony. We had about 20 people from Deschutes County, 10 people from around the state, not out of the state even. But we have 150,000 registered voters in the state, and a lot of people need to understand what this is. So that's the opportunity, just to get a little bit of brain space on the big picture here. As I say, when the state puts out some rules and we figure out what, what's the starting point even for land use. We've got resource and non-resource land. We have rural residential neighborhoods. We have farmland. What would those even be? Where's a starting point for that? And we can have those discussions. In fact, I support that in the next 6 months or so, 4 months, I guess. Really bringing this to light, understanding more, so we have an informed, citizenry on this topic.
I'm going to talk about wasting taxpayer dollars again at this point. This Measure 109 passed in Deschutes County a year and a half ago with 52.8% of the vote, a margin of close to 6,000 voters. This is not Umatilla County, where residents voted 62% against. This is not Crook County, where residents voted 64.5% against. This is Deschutes County, where residents voted 52.8% in favor a year and a half ago. We heard an incredible amount of testimony in the last few weeks. I was open to hearing from constituents that they wanted to consider an opt-out, but when I tallied up the phone calls, the board at Deschutes.org emails, and the public testimony we heard during our hearing, I came up with a number of something like 75 in favor of psilocybin access and less than 10 opposed. So that indicates to me that there's insufficient opposition to psilocybin access in this county for the ballot measure to produce results any different than they produced in November 2020. And it will cost us. It will cost us legal time. It will cost us county clerk time. It will cost us community development time to pursue an opt-out ballot measure. And instead, we could be taking those resources and applying them to the development of time, place, and manner regulations so that we can safely and effectively regulate access to these therapeutic treatments, which is something we will have to do anyway if and when the voters again tell us that they want access to psilocybin services. So the whole exercise of writing a ballot measure, campaigning for it, having to put it through rigorous legal review and all of those things are, in my mind, an inefficient and inappropriate use of our community's taxpayers' resources. So I will be voting against referring an opt-out ballot measure to the voters.
Okay, thank you for those comments, and I'll support referring it back to the voters. I think that the state has seen a lot of things happen over the last 2 years. Actually, under Measure 110, according to Sergeant Kent Vanderkamp, a person can possess up to 12 grams of psilocybin, and it is treated as an e-violation. I think the important thing is that the state has taken so long to actually come up with the rules, and the facilitators are not required to be licensed medical or mental health professionals. I really feel that if there is if there is the good use of psilocybin for such treatments as PTSD, I truly am all for it, but I just feel like in this case, the state could perhaps strengthen the training, the requirements, the 120 hours. I just think the voters need to know everything that's gone on, and hopefully, before they vote, OHA will have their rules available for the public to know. It's interesting. We've already had a psilocybin grow that was stopped last year by code in Terrebonne. It was 150 square feet, and what they're worrying about is the fact that with marijuana, we thought it would stop the cartel from coming, but no, it didn't. In fact, we know the cartel is here. It was in at least 9 counties last year, and they're afraid that the market could be perhaps flooded with this product. So I'm with Commissioner DeBonne. So if we could have a motion.
I'd just like to say 2 things. Number one, we need to think carefully about the relationship between legal and black markets. I do not think that there is any evidence that that having legal recreational marijuana makes the black market for black market production and marketing of marijuana worse. And I would challenge anyone who tried to claim that our legal, licensed, permitted recreational marijuana businesses are participating in the black market. So let's draw a bright line in between legal, regulated markets and black market production and consumption of substances. So that's first off. I just, if anyone claims that allowing legal, licensed, regulated psilocybin manufacturing is going to result in material from those facilities going into the black market, I just would like to challenge them to substantiate that claim. I'd also just like to say that we heard during the testimony from MDs, psychiatrists, counselors, therapists, and just kind of a whole network of mental health and behavioral health service providers. People who have decades of experience in the trenches on these, doing this work. Who all expressed support for providing easy, local access, affordable to the residents of Deschutes County. And many of those people also indicated an interest in becoming facilitators themselves. So while there may not be a requirement that you hold one of those degrees or licenses before you become a facilitator, what I witnessed from that testimony was that there will be a whole lot of people with a whole lot of experience in the mental health field who are drawn to providing these services because they have seen, the effectiveness in addressing mental and behavioral health challenges that they have been grappling with their clients for decades. So I just, on both of those, on both of those fronts, that this is going to contribute to black market production, or that we will have people who are unqualified to administer psilocybin, administering psilocybin. I don't think that those are valid arguments.
Okay, thank you for those comments.
So Measure 109 included this opportunity to refer it to the voters, so that was voted on also. So this is that step. As I say, it's all about land use. You're referring a lot about the market and the services, and this isn't even about that. It's about where would it be landed in Deschutes County, and the conversation can go on, and people can be informed and up to speed on this subject.
Right.
So
And that is, we heard during the hearing testimony that the state OHA is leaving time, place, and manner to us. They are carefully thinking out the production processes, the processes of administering psilocybin to patients, and the care that they will get during that process. But the rules are drafted. They do not say much about time, place, manner. So really, we have a blank slate to work with. And if we were to engage some of the businesses that are interested in starting operations, psilocybin facilities in Deschutes County, in discussions and deliberations right now, we could develop some very good time, place, and manner regulations, which speak to the concerns that you are both expressing. Where is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? And I just want to reemphasize that is that the state has left that to our control.
And I'm appreciative that that is left to our control. But I still feel that it's important to send it back to the voters, considering what we are looking at, and I think it's appropriate that to have good public policy. So is there a motion then by
I'll move.
title only?
Yep, I'll move approval on first reading by title only of ordinance number 2022-009, referring a measure to the electors to decide whether to prohibit establishment of psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service center operators within unincorporated Deschutes County.
Okay, and I'll second that motion. Is there any further discussion?
I guess I would just like to hear from my colleagues again what leads them to believe that a 6,000 voter margin is going to disappear and reverse 18, a year and a half after the voters of Deschutes County already expressed their opinion on this issue.
No comment.
I have no comment either. I just want people to be more careful. So, and truly, I'm hoping that we'll have a lot of research available for people to read exactly what the state is doing. So for the vote, Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
No.
And the chair votes yes. So if the motion has been approved and supported, approved in title only, an order calling for an election on the issue of prohibiting the establishment of psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service center operators within unincorporated Deschutes County, referral to the electors. So we have now moved approval, and we have to,
Well, second
So that was
reading
the-
on either August 8th or August 10th.
August 8th then, perhaps?
That's the Monday or
Okay.
that Wednesday, the 10th. Either one, timing-wise, still works.
Okay.
So is the board order for action today also?
Yes, in light of the ordinance being adopted, we would recommend that you, on the sheet I provided,
Yep.
that you proceed with items 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, so we're on item 2 then.
So I'll move approval of board order number 2022-041, an order calling for an election on the issue of asking the electors to decide whether to prohibit the establishment of psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service center operators within unincorporated Deschutes County.
And I'll second it. Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
No.
And the chair votes yes. And now,
So following with that, move to authorize chair signature of the election document SCL 805 and subsequent election documents required in order to place the measure on the November 8th, 2022 general election ballot.
and I will second that. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
No.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, so now,
That brings you to item 4, which is how you want to proceed with regard to TPM. You, as staff's identified it, we think the most viable options would be you direct CDD and legal to begin working on TPM regulations in case the measure fails in November, or B, to hold off for now on the TPM regulations and await additional information from OHA and/or the results of the election in November. Peter and Tanya are here. I think Peter could probably speak to some of the staffing issues associated with work on TPM and how that might affect other work that they have. It'll affect legal as well, but we'll find room to provide the support that we do if the direction is to proceed with those.
So along those lines, thank you very much. I know that we've got a full schedule of just land use items, planning commission topics, and this is talking about time, place, and manner regulations. So, for people that just heard us put it to a vote of the people, that doesn't mean it's over. It means we're going to be more informed. So as a group of commissioners, as a group of land use planners and the planning commission, as I say, we're going to hopefully be able to put some meat on this topic and understand more. So I just wanted to start off with that.
Thank you, Commissioner and Madam Chair, and Commissioners. For the record, Peter Gutowski, Community Development Director. In anticipation of this scenario, what we certainly can, I can provide context or perspectives if you'd like to have that conversation today. Our thought was we could schedule, we would prepare a memorandum for your work session on Monday to give you context in terms of how our current code is structured, and to the extent that if the opt-out was overturned, how the psilocybin program would apply to our existing code, which I think could provide greater context as to whether or not the board would be interested in having CDD developed time, place, and manner amendments for late summer and into the fall. We can also then talk about what it means to undertake these TPM amendments, as Dave Doyle noted. It's not on our work plan, so that we would be looking to the board for some direction in terms of adjusting our work program temporarily to address TPM amendments. So that, I think the memorandum would help you. We would get it uploaded today, again, to get on your July 25th, that Monday afternoon. But at the same time, if the three of you want to talk about these issues, I can certainly articulate them for you. I just thought you would like to see the memo, understand the codes. We did do quite an audit on them, and I think you'd benefit by seeing how production, manufacturing, and the service centers, how they relate to our code imperfectly in many respects as it relates to the service center with that memorandum.
I'm supportive of, just bringing it back for a work session and really just kind of diving in, getting the whole umbrella of the issue started.
and I think, the 25th sounds fine in the afternoon. And just like what we learned last time when we had the time, place, and manner, and we had the, what was it, WAC, YAK, the youth activity, that center that was never properly identified. So we truly need to think about proper legal definitions so that they're recognized outside of this room.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too far ahead of the board or this forthcoming memorandum, but there'll be a schedule that we would provide so the board understands context for how a TPM amendment would be executed over the course of this summer and fall. One of the things that, just to plant a seed, would be on the 25th, if the board is compelled to direct the CDD to prepare TPM amendments, what we'd want to do, what we would suggest as an option is come back on August 8th. There's the fair that happens the week prior. Come back with some, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but just for perspective, provide the board with some regulatory concepts that then can identify a preferred alternative that allows CDD to build those amendments to start the public plan amendment or text amendment process. So I anticipate the 25th would be, are you interested in TPM amendments, what it means to our work program, and how to modify a work program temporarily, and then come back in a couple of weeks with some regulatory concepts, just as the chair noted. So there's perspective about how certain options could be executed, again, to start the process by receiving public input on a formal amendment. Not to say that what's being proposed would be the final product, but I think the board would benefit by seeing certain alternatives, and then, again, with that direction, presumably, we could build those amendments rather quickly and maximize the late summer and fall. So I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's kind of the two-step process that we're conceptualizing for you. And again, it would start on Monday with that memorandum, so the three of you and the general public, to the extent that they're monitoring this issue, have an understanding of how we're framing the issue.
I'm supportive of development of that memo and am interested in the process you're laying out. I'm already thinking ahead to the triage question, basically. What do we not do so that we can do this? And I guess as you're developing, options for that, kind of how to keep all of these priorities moving along, I would love for you to, for CDD to also offer some, any options possible to essentially add some general fund dollars and contract some external services on pieces of work, critical pieces of work at CDD that we just can't allow to languish, so that we can do it all, because I'm pretty confident that this, if we proceed with this ballot measure, it will fail, and we need to be prepared with draft time, place, and manner rules. When January comes and the state starts accepting applications for licenses for these facilities. Otherwise, we will be, we will be caught completely flat-footed.
So Peter, we'll see you Monday afternoon then?
Correct.
Okay.
Great, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's going to make a bump in a big, impact your schedule, so we appreciate that. Okay. Now we have the project Oasis Village on our agenda. Thank you, Christy, for introducing the team behind it.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Christy Bollinger, Deschutes County Property Management. So we're pleased to be here today to provide an update on the Oasis Village project. We have Bob Bohack and James Cook here and a few other members. So with that, I'd like to pass it over to Bob and James.
Can we see if Hayes McCoy is online. No.
Welcome, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you. Let me get myself squared away.
Okay.
It's easier for me to speak without that mask on.
It truly is, isn't it?
Good morning.
Before you get started, can I just ask one question? I wanted to check with Stephanie in the back. Someone sent me a message that they weren't able to get the feed from the meeting in the last little bit. Does it look like things are flowing okay? Okay, thank you. So, and we'll have a recording. Okay, thank you.
We just saw Hayes walking into the building, so he'll be here probably in about 1 to 2 minutes.
Oh, please, everyone, identify yourselves for the record.
My name is Bob Bohack. I am the chair of Oasis Village Board.
James Cook, Vice Chair, Oasis Village Board.
Name is Tim Avisi. I'm just a helper on this Oasis board.
And soon to arrive,
Making a dramatic entrance.
yes, Hayes. He's
Just
ready.
don't knock over your display.
Hayes McCoy from McCoy Engineering will be here very, very briefly. Thank you very much this morning for the opportunity to bring you up to date in terms of where the project Oasis Village is and what we presume will be happening over the next year to year and a half. Hayes, James, and I will be presenting today what had been accomplished over the last 6 to 9 months, where we are right now with the site plan in terms of pre-development meeting with the city of Redmond, and then what we are anticipating in terms of building out over the next approximately 18 months. In terms of what you have there in front of you, we want to start with basically what has been accomplished over the last 10 to 11 months. In terms of funding, you are, of course, well aware of the funds that you have appropriated, the ARPA funds that came to us. And with that, we were able also to secure matching funds from the Central Oregon Health Council, $250,000, which is now in the bank, and we will be able to use that primarily for staffing and incidentals so that we have a physical presence and can proceed with some of our social planning for our social programs. In addition, the state of Oregon, in their last session, awarded us $350,000 for Oasis Village. So we are well on our way. I can't say that we have all of the funds that we need, but we are proceeding with fundraising. The design for the program, and a visual image of it here, is based on the site plan that Hayes has developed that we'll be presenting to the city of Redmond. I believe it's next week? Next Tuesday. And then the 3D images by Miles Wilhelm so that you have a better graphic of what we anticipate the village will look like and how it will be organized. Besides the ARPA fund grants that we received from you, we of course also have been working with Hope University staff, Rogue Retreat essentially, with the grant of approximately $32,000. We've had weekly planning sessions every Wednesday with much of the project done in terms of their role in this. We will be meeting about once a month for the next several months. We've had one site visit to the facilities that Rogue Retreat runs in Medford and are planning another one for August. Hope University personnel conducted a poverty simulation workshop approximately 6-8 weeks ago in the city of Redmond, and we had a visioning session that frankly was very, very well attended. We had approximately 20 individuals from many of the different shelter and service providers, those who are working with the unhoused in the Redmond area. Rogue Retreat, Hope University will be presenting, we schedule with you sometime within the next 4 to 6 weeks, kind of the outcome of that. The very last part of that is Fundamentals of Peer Support course, 40-hour course to be offered in Redmond during the month of October.
Question.
Yes.
For the funding line items, is one of those the dollars for bringing utilities across the road, or is that another group of funding, another set of funding?
The funding from the state of Oregon, $350,000, is what we have essentially budgeted for getting utilities across the road, as well as site development, and hopefully there'll be some funds left for fencing. But that's primarily what that is intended for.
So that's the utilities
Yes.
under the road and up to that property.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
And you think there'll be something left over, then you can do a little bit more with it, fencing and things?
That's our hope. We do not have a solid figure yet in terms of what it will cost. Hayes will be getting into that very briefly, working with with ODOT in terms of the timing and what we'll need to do to get primarily sewer and water, but also electricity from the south side of Highway 126 to the north side.
Do we have any idea when that will happen? I mean, does it take another 6 months or something? Like, I'm sure you'll tell us. I'm just like, how long of a wait is it? Okay.
We'll be getting to that very briefly because, yes, there will be a time delay on that, unfortunately.
I was afraid of that.
Yeah. One of the primary focuses currently are the shelter units, tiny bedrooms, however you wish to refer to them. The first one was funded approximately a year ago by Redmond Rotary. The work that is appropriate to getting it done, roughed out essentially. The electrical work has to be done after it is brought on site. So that has not been finished. But we are also working with the Heart of Oregon Corps, who did the construction of the first unit. They, with a grant that they have for their youth build program, have been given the go-ahead to build additional units, probably as many as 15, funding, of course, dependent, but that's our job now, is to raise the funds for that over the next 18 months so that they would be ready to move on site. In addition to that, we have also contacted and are working with the Redmond construction classes.
Excuse me, Bob, I'm so sorry. Rondo, is that your dog barking? No. Okay, I'm just like, okay, all right. Thank you, so sorry.
No problem. And Hayden Homes is coming alongside, be working with the construction classes, and students in the trades classes at Redmond High School will be building anywhere from 1 to 2 of those shelter units per semester. So that by the end of 2023, we are expecting that we would have approximately the first 20 sleeping units ready. They won't all be on site, they won't be finished, but they will be roughed out. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Hayes in terms of some of the technical stuff about the site plan.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Hayes McCoy. I'm the civil engineer for the Oasis Village Group. So, as discussed earlier, utilities do need to come under the street. I guess I should back up. So, we know the property is in Redmond city limits, and next Tuesday we have our first initial pre-development meeting with the city, and that's where we go over what the city is going to require for this site so it can be developed according to their regulations. Of course, we've proposed what we would like to do, and it's we're trying to be very cost effective would be probably the great way to put it. We're going to learn a lot from that meeting on Tuesday, though, on timeline and process. But a lot of the things and a lot of the logistics of construction we're going to discuss at that time as well. Initially, I've spoken with ODOT a fair amount on bringing utilities to the site and access to the site. There's an existing access. Currently, there's boulders across it. Assume those were placed by the county because you didn't want unauthorized access to the property. That access is permitted by ODOT. In my initial discussion with them, given the amount of traffic we're going to have from that site, ODOT has said, yes, that's an approvable use. It's preliminary. We have to go through the process, but initially that was positive. And then, as we've already discussed, utilities are on the south side, power, sewer, and water. Those need to go underneath, will likely need to be bored. There is a highway improvement project scheduled for repaving 126 in that area, but that is, everything would need to time out correctly for utilities to be able to go through or an open cut. Discussing that with ODOT, they said, please plan on boring it. That way, if it's easier, it's always better.
When is that scheduled for, Hayden, do you know?
I don't know. I believe it's scheduled for next year, though. So we're going to have the pre-development meeting with the city. We'll learn a lot about what the city's expectations are for developing the site. From there, we move on and we prepare a site plan, and we submit that to the city. And our time frame for having that application in is at the beginning of September. Presently, the city takes about 90 days to review a land use application, and they will issue a decision. That decision then provides the final steps for how the site needs to be developed. We will need to prepare a grading, utility, and drainage plan that goes to the city of Redmond, is reviewed by them. We need about 30 days to prepare that. And then those generally take about 4 months to have approved. Once they're approved, grading and site work can begin. Concurrently with the grading, utility, and drainage plan, we would submit a permit application to ODOT. They would review, it would cover any access improvements to the existing driveway that's on 126, and also the boring and extension of utilities under 126. Now, maybe there's a way we can do that a little bit earlier, and if so, I'd like to, but I'm not quite sure. I have to discuss that with the city of Redmond, because they have a certain process they want us to follow. So going over the timeline, if we submit our land use application September 1st, that means we get a decision at the beginning of December. We submit our grading, drainage, utility plan at the beginning of January. We get an approval at May. We start site development work in May. And then that means that will be completed during the summer, when vertical construction can proceed. Vertical construction will need water on site, because we'll be having wood structures. But once those are in place and once the site is developed, then, as discussed by Bob, in the fall, we're ready for the first residents of Oasis Village.
Can we go back to the maps, the first kind of bigger, back one more? When we talk about 2 acres, can you put perspective what we're talking about here? What are the rectangles on the top?
The rectangles on the top are each approximately a ½ acre, so there is a little bit over an acre between the 2 large rectangles, and then intuitively, the rest of the site is about an acre. I would say we're probably a little over 2 acres altogether with the site.
What are the rectangles on the top then?
Pardon?
Are they parking or a future development area? Or, yeah, so put in perspective for me, what are we looking at there?
Yes, the one on the upper left is a proposed dog run, fenced in,
Okay.
where folks can let their dogs run around. And the one up on the right is a garden area where we may either have raised beds or we'll have water there, so folks can plant a garden area there. Something for recreation, I
Yeah,
suppose.
see, I didn't have a feel for what those were. So
Certainly.
now I do.
Yep.
No, I think it's really important to have greenhouses. You know, like the Central Oregon Veterans Ranch has such a phenomenal program. They sell their lettuce and things at the markets. It's amazingly delicious, and I just think it's like such a positive thing to do, to raise your own vegetables. So that would be something I would hope that we could, perhaps fund at a point in time, but actually a greenhouse.
That could easily be implemented into the garden area, I think.
If I could interject here, one of the meetings we had last year with Redmond Groups was with the Garden Club, and they are all in terms of helping develop, how the village looks, as well as working with some type of a garden. So yes, we very definitely want to see that in the future.
Great. I think I remember that. I think they were one of your earliest supporters, weren't they?
Yes.
I know. I think that's wonderful.
Any other questions about the timeline?
So we're talking about next fall? Next fall.
Yes.
So hopefully by then, we can get all the villages funded and built. If we're going to do, 1 to 2 a semester at the high school, and then Heart of Oregon is going to build the others?
Yeah, we would hope sometime around that time frame we'd have 20 units that were ready to go. We want to open with 10, ensure that we have all our processes in place and we're handling things well. And then, once we are convinced of that, add 2 more units a month until we hit 20. The MOU we're currently discussing with the county has built in a pause at 20 units to consult with the county to make sure everybody is happy with where we are and the process and any mid-course corrections we need to make before increasing ultimately to 30 to 40 units.
The site plan as it has been presented has accommodation for 27 of the tiny bedrooms. We won't have that many at first. We're very serious about taking a pause at 20, seeing how things are going in terms of the physical facilities, but also the social programs, because we intend to have wraparound services, and we're going to take a serious look at that time in terms of staffing, what additional staffing is necessary, how it's working out, what changes need to be made.
I know the Veterans Village in Clackamas, we were told when we did our tour September 1st of 2020 that, well, we're talking veterans, a lot of PTSD, different issues like that, but they really felt like the dynamics at staying at 15 really was best for their program. And they'd gone above it, and then they went back to that 15. So that was one of the pieces of information that we passed on for our program here. Is for veterans, 15 was good, but hopefully for your program, you'll find that 20 is fine, and, maybe you can add on.
And we also have some flexibility in how we would lay things out. It could be a way to group 15 or 20 units and then a second group of those, but not necessarily have a lot of interaction between the 2 units. Yeah.
Chair, may I ask a question?
Sure.
For some reason, I thought this was going to be approved under House Bill 2006, which effectively waived land use and some of those other typical requirements if it's allowed in the zone, but perhaps not. Perhaps the city is still requiring site plan review, and I was just thinking of a way to save time and money, but I may not be recalling correctly.
My understanding, and that varies with how valuable that is to you, but we still have all of the safety and utility concerns, which are really being more of an obstacle than a particular zoning requirement to make this happen. And I believe that expires next year in July, so we'd be kind of bordering that in any case.
And my recollection was that House Bill 2006 just required that the application be submitted or the project be started. And I'm not pushing, I just was curious about opportunities, given the priority for this for the county and for you and our community. Is there a way to both save money and time, but perhaps not? Yeah, thank you.
Has there been any discussion about the future 17th Street? So I know that 17th Street is way north of Antler right now, but if you look at the alignment, basically that's on the edge of this. And at some point, the city's just going to pop it out there, and then that'll be a lot better access, especially for commuting back into the town. I don't think you have to touch it, yeah. So
It's
you push it to mute it, so other than that, it's always on.
Thank you. Agreed. So our site development plan anticipates that 17th will come through there at some point, and we've aligned sewer and water to be where the city's going to want those utilities within that street. They aren't exactly sure, when that will come through, but we have designed this to be well clear of it at that time. And yes, access would be a lot better from
Yep.
17th
I
Street.
mean, that's the vision, it's going to be not optimal to come in off of the highway there. That's the starting point. There's some economic development opportunities, just large parcel purchases that could happen, and all of a sudden it's happening. That road will need to be there, so that'll be exciting when that happens also. In fact, I kind of envision it, looks like it's just way out of town right now, but all of a sudden it'll be part of it. It will just be part of it, especially if it's already in the UGB.
It's uncertain whether 17th will come straight through and go directly across, or actually bend to the southwest and come in, do a roundabout where the current turnoff for the airport is.
Oh, yeah, we need a roundabout first.
Yeah, that may.
But, yeah, just whatever, as soon as that triggers, all of a sudden, it'll just be magical, a lot better access to that property.
In one of our meetings, the city engineer was there, and we asked specifically what size, and because 17th is coming out and they envision that to be a major arterial through the industrial area, they're talking 18 inches, correct, for one of the boards, for the water line?
Yes, I think the water line is a bit larger for a transmission line to provide water service to those industrial properties. So they do have a water master plan that specifies, here's what we need for water, here's what we need. They also have a wastewater master plan that says what they'll need for sewer and how 17th Street needs to be constructed.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so then for that water capacity, I got to imagine, as soon as you think about if it's going to build out someday, you're going to want to have fire flow at a fire hydrant, so that means it just needs to be bigger, even if you're not going to use that much in a industrial, residential.
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting.
Any further questions about the timeline?
Well, I like Nick's idea.
How can we make it shorter? Yep.
Yeah, making
We
it
will-
shorter.
We will, believe me, we're trying.
I mean, I do want to remind my fellow commissioners that part of the length of development process for a site like this is because of the site that we have identified to work with Oasis Village on. I tracked pretty closely the development of St. Vincent's Place here in Bend, and from twinkle in the eye to almost ready for people to move in was just about 12 months. And that site had a whole lot of advantages. It was, closer into the community. It was already, in a developed area with infrastructure. There weren't all sorts of question marks about, when is this roundabout coming in? When is 17th being extended? When can we get utilities to the location? So if we wanted to see a faster timeline, we could have worked with Oasis Village to identify a site that was a little bit more development ready. So I would just say that, with those considerations, I think that the timeline and vision for this facility is really great. And, just want to express great thanks to the Oasis Village organization for moving this project forward. We need all of these pathways for people out of homelessness, and we need them as fast as we can get them. And if we want to see them go faster, we can think about what we can do to make those processes go faster.
Yeah, and this slide actually repeats a lot of the discussion we've already had, so I don't want to dwell on it, but I do want to introduce it by saying that throughout this entire process, and we're talking 4 years really at this point, if not more, Bob has always stressed that Oasis Village is a community project, the people of Redmond helping our neighbors, and we've really focused on that with Hayden Homes and Hayes, with the Rotary building, sponsoring our first shelter, and other partnerships. In addition to that, Oasis Village is also working with the community. We're involved in the 17th Street discussions in Redmond, which happen monthly, and meet with businesses, city staff, county staff in some cases, and state and ODOT staff in other cases to try to keep the situation on 17th Street and other areas in Redmond under control, so we're not in this position of forcing people out before we have a place for them to go. We also have monthly discussions with the other 3 groups that are building shelter villages in Central Oregon. With our timeline, we have the advantage of being able to learn from all the mistakes they make in the process. But we're all working together to make these developments happen. But I think what the most exciting aspect of it to us really is these first two items, where the Heart of Oregon Corps Youth Build is building our shelters, and we're working with the high school construction technology class. I apologize for tripping on that. It's a shop class if you're my age. But that is an opportunity to not only address homelessness, but also address the need we have in our community to get our youth marketable skills, encourage our construction industry, and we're proud to be a part of that, and we're really proud to be working with the youth in our community. Part of that community outreach, we're going to have that first unit that was built by Heart of Oregon Corps Youth Build at the county fair in 2 weeks. I know you will all be out at the county fair way more and probably in a lot more heat than you want to be, but
That's what ice cream is for, though.
that's what ice cream is for, yes it is. And we invite you to stop by our display and have a nice, long discussion. As I told Commissioner Adair earlier, we'll buy the soft drink or the tea or whatever and sit down, and love to have a big discussion with you. That is also going to be the kickoff for our capital campaign to build these units. We expect them to cost $10,000 by the time they're on site and finished, and so we're going out to organizations in the community. Obviously, Rotary was our first. We'll be talking to Kiwanis this afternoon at their luncheon. We've met with VFW, and we're going to be meeting with other community groups. So we're going to be encouraging the community to get involved, sponsor these units, and really be a part of Oasis Village, and for Oasis Village to be a part of our community. So that said, we've talked about site work beginning in spring, hoping to have ultimately 20 shelters by the time we're either on site or ready to go by the time we're ready to open, and welcoming those first residents in November 2023. And we want to invite you to our grand opening when that happens. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't once again just tell you have incredible staff here at the county, and they've been a pleasure to work with, and it has been we've been overwhelmed by the support we've gotten from your staff and the time and effort and the work they've put into that. And I can't commend them enough.
James, thank you so much for saying that, because they are our heroes on so many levels, and I really, I so appreciate you acknowledging them. If you wanted to mention names or whatever, I think, they might want to even hear their names.
Every name goes out of my.
Don't forget anybody.
Don't forget them, but no, truly, I think it's. But I was thinking of your vision, when you guys are thinking ahead, I would hope maybe that the next units that you do would have like the half baths, like the Veterans Village, because truly, we want to give these people dignity, and I really feel that if we have the sewer there, it wouldn't be as expensive, would it, to put in half baths?
We're going to be drilling, going through basalt.
Oh, I know.
So
I think they did it there, though, too.
Yeah, and the other consideration, and I hope this doesn't sound wrong, but, we are going to be bringing people hopefully out of the junipers who are living in tents. We are going to improve their living conditions, and with the expectation that they will also move on beyond Oasis Village. So, we have trade-offs between expenses, amenities, and our ability, and the number of people we can serve. So, I mean, that will be in part of the consideration when we expand beyond the 20 units, and we'll have that discussion again. But, I mean, that's one of the reasons we've made the decision so far to go with that direction.
I love the fact that that Redmond High, their SHOP program is doing the work. We actually had the privilege of visiting Hermiston High Schools. They actually build homes. The high school kids build homes every year. They have a whole, subdivision that they have built. It's an amazing job. One of the teachers went back, got his contractor's license, and
He was a coach before he did that,
yeah,
too, isn't he? Yeah.
he runs the program, and unbelievable, the hands-on training. They can build the homes for less, but the home that we saw that was just being finished was selling, they had sold it for $500,000. It was really
And
nice.
then it funds the next one.
Right, yeah, so it's a great opportunity, and maybe our program here at Redmond High could think about expanding.
We're hopeful this isn't a one-and-done project that, we may not be involved in the next one, but hopefully the students will be going on and doing similar things in the community.
The Youth Build program has a very similar model. I mean, before Heart of Oregon Corps Youth Build got involved in tiny shelter construction, they were mostly just working on regular old standard residential housing units.
And so this last slide, excuse me, this is our dream right here, but this is the reality of St. Vincent's Village in Bend, and they're going to be welcoming their first guests in August. And this, what you see here is the exact model we'll be building, with the exception we are going to have a slant roof as opposed to the peaked roof. So we have the option of adding solar later if that becomes a possibility. But, it's been great to be able to watch this go from a dream to a reality, and seeing, it gives us a chance to really get a feel for the reality we're offering. And I have to tell you, when I first saw these interior units, I was almost in tears, because it's far beyond what I envisioned possible in that space. And we're just really looking forward to be able to bring this to Redmond. It's possible, again, because of Bob's leadership, hard work by all of our community, and again, the financial and staff support of the county. And we just really appreciate the opportunity to update you. And we promise we are going to work to bring this timeline tighter. As we've seen, watching the new developments happen around us, unfortunately, the timelines seem to grow. Ours has, and we're comfortable now that we're realistic. We've also seen our budget expand from what we imagined a year and a half ago when we first put it together. So we're going to have some additional fundraising, but our initial push right at the moment is going to be funding these shelter units with community-based donations.
So in a year, please don't forget the name Furnish Hope. Megan, I just saw her on the news, a wonderful clip. They do such an amazing job. I believe that they are furnishing completely all the apartments south of Bend. I think it's like 166 of them. That's the group that's furnishing these. They do a beautiful job. They furnished the Veterans Village. Save the name Furnish Hope. They truly do. They do a wonderful job for our community. So you know Megan.
Thank you very much. Great to see everybody. Very exciting.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
I didn't mention in particular, I didn't follow it. Eric and Christy have been constantly bothered by us, I think, is probably.
Bothered.
And been very helpful. And we also recognize that the county and your staff is under a lot of pressure, and people are wearing many hats right now. So, again, thank you very much.
So we'll see you at the fair.
You'll see us at the fair. I'm not sure exactly what times I'd be there, but.
And where will we, like, walking in, we'll actually see it there, right there in the front? Do we know where it's located?
I think it's right near the sheep barn,
Those sheep?
by the sheep barn.
Okay, good, by the sheep barn. I go there, I love to see the sheep, so Sounds like a good plan.
Will you be there every day of the fair?
What?
That's by my memory. I won't guarantee it, but
Okay,
we looked at it the other day because we're trying to decide whether the tiny sleeping unit gets to stay on the trailer or whether we're going to have to forklift it off, which we don't want to do. Yes, but we've got a double unit, thanks to Hayden Homes, and we're looking forward to it.
good. Okay. We'll look for you there.
And we won't each individually be there the entire fair, but
Only 12 hours a day, 4 days in a row.
I was there 4 years ago, and that's hot, and a few hours out in that heat can be totally exhausting. So we've got a large crew of people circling in and out of there, but
Okay,
we'll be sure to see you.
great. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
And for your
Appreciate the
vision
opportunity.
and for your patience. It's appreciated. Okay, I believe we're on item number 6. Dave?
Good morning, Commissioners. Dave Givens, County Internal Auditor. Here before you to share the Audit Committee's recommended changes to the ordinances for County Internal Auditor and County Audit Committee. These are prompted by a review we do every couple years in the Audit Committee, and also prompted by addition of a staff person to internal audit. And so we've added a couple amendments to address the addition of staff, including just a new reference to our Office of County Internal Audit, and expanding the duties to include oversight and supervision and budgeting and things like that. Highlighting independence of the function, which was already in there, but just in a little different. We like any good government office, we borrowed a lot of the language from Clackamas County, and they had some good verbiage in their county code. We also allowed for greater interaction between the audit committee and the county administrator for any non-audit projects that come up. So again, trying to outline some things as we go through there. I did notice in your packets that I missed on the Exhibit B for the audit committee ordinance or chapter. It should read Office of County Internal Audit, not Office of Internal Audit. So I have an updated version of that I can give to the secretary, and here to answer any questions.
So you're referring to the ordinance itself, the words in the ordinance?
Not in the ordinance itself, it's actually in the exhibits. So the ordinance is fine, it's just
Okay, the
Exhibit B.
code.
Exhibit B needs another word in it, so.
Dave, I'd be curious to understand a little more, just from a background perspective. What was the kind of impetus or motivation for looking at this revision at this point?
Sure. We actually have it in the county code that the audit committee will review the chapters for both themselves and for the county internal auditor every 2 years.
Okay, so it's routine maintenance.
It's just routine maintenance.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, so it's a big moment going from the county auditor to the office of the auditor. I mean, that's kind of the big words here, the big word change. But the package hangs together very well. The function of the office is, appreciated, obviously. Also, the clarity of non-audit efforts. We've found some real value in that in the past, where we're like, hey, we got a bunch of information here. Are we going to make a good financial choice, or how can we document our choice when we're moving forwards or whatever. So it's very valuable, just the structures you can put in place for some of the non-audit work too. So thank you so much for that, and putting it in here. I reviewed all the red lines previously, so I'm comfortable with it.
Okay,
And Commissioner Derry, you're currently on the audit committee?
I am on the audit committee. Yes, I am. It's been very valuable, and actually, I'm really happy that we're having a new auditor for this next year.
Mm.
So I'm glad that we
External audit.
Yes, external auditor. So I'm happy that we made that change because we had the same auditor for, I believe, didn't we have him for 8 years?
Yeah, it's 8 years, yeah.
And so we're actually going to Moss Adams, which is perhaps maybe more of an Oregon firm than someone from Boise. Not that that matters that much, but I think it's always good to have someone new look at the books from the external point of view.
Well, and having that external audit happen is always a great point in time to have a third party look at the big picture. I know it's a big function of finance, just being prepared to pull the numbers too. So that's always a big effort. And then doing it remotely during COVID, that was a big challenge also. So I know the whole group has been through a lot over the years.
And Dave, with these changes, do you feel like this framework works for a two-person office at this point in time?
Yeah, I think it does. It's just some fairly minor cosmetic changes, really. It's pretty adaptive. Again, it provides some things in there that we hadn't really had to have before, per se. So it does give a little room for growth, but, it took me 20 years to have some support in staffing, and so it's probably taken another 20 years to get another one, so.
That's right. You've been here 20 years, haven't you?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you again. Thank
no
you.
worries.
Thank you for your service to Deschutes County.
So any questions on the motion, or I'm not the best to probably give you guidance as opposed to legal on how this all happens.
If there's no further discussion, I'm happy to make a motion. Move approval of ordinance number 2022-008. First reading
Be first reading by title only.
by title only.
I will second it.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes by title only, first reading, and ordinance amending chapters 214, County Internal Auditor, and amending chapter 2.15, Audit Committee of the Deschutes County Code. Ordinance number 2022-008, and then would we have the second reading to be scheduled for,
It would either be August 8th or 10th.
okay, August 10th, would that be okay?
I think that'll work.
Okay. All right.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Dave.
You, David.
Okay, we're on item number 7. Okay. Chad and Tim, thank you for joining us.
Morning, Commissioners. Chad Santola, Director of Solid Waste, and also in attendance is Tim Burnell, our incoming Director of Solid Waste. This item is is authorizing a notice of intent to award for a contract for household hazardous waste management services. We have a program that's offered twice a month at Not Landfill for collecting household hazardous waste from residents in the community. The contractor provides staffing as well as hazardous waste management services for the program. And also during the summer, we do one-day events in Redmond, Sisters, and Lapine. The contract also, excuse me, has the contract provide at their cost recovery a small business hazardous waste management program as well. We get a lot of small businesses wanting to participate in the program. Cost and regulatory issues, we have that completely separate, and the contractor operates that program on their own and recovers their cost for that service. The agreement is awarded as a one-year contract with options to renew for up to 3 years. We're just finishing year 2 with Clean Harbors Environmental Services. We have struggled, and that's use that term very lightly, with paperwork and invoice problems with them for about 8 months. We have had a number of meetings with them and asked them to fix this, and we also cautioned them that if the problem is not resolved, we would not renew for year 3. And that's what we've elected to do. It has been a significant challenge for us to keep track of paperwork and get timely invoices from them. So with that, we issued an RFP back in June for the services, and Clean Harbors did submit a proposal, as did Clean Earth Environmental Solutions. Clean Harbors was slightly less costly than Clean Earth. What we do is we take a look at our historical waste collection quantities, and we do a cost evaluation based on that historical information. Clean Harbors came in slightly less costly than Clean Earth, but in the experience and qualifications part of the review, the biggest challenge we've had with the invoicing, we just did not feel comfortable with continuing to use Clean Harbors for the new contract. So with that, Clean Earth Environmental Solutions came up as the recommended firm to award the contract to. And again, it'll be a one-year contract with options to renew up to 3 years total.
So a $318,000 contract with a difference of about 5,000 or 4,000 something, you said?
A pretty small margin between
Yeah.
the two. And the contract will actually be awarded for $350,000. It's based
Okay.
on time and materials, and we can never forecast what kind of waste stream volumes we'll be getting. So we budget for $350,000 a year for it.
I guess one question I would ask, or I'm curious about the structure of these kinds of businesses. Are these both, statewide or national businesses that, kind of plug in on contracts at the local base, at the local level, or are they Central Oregon companies, or are?
They're national companies. This is really a niche service. There's a lot of companies that do hazardous waste services, but they're more set up for dealing with industrial customers, things like that. So it's a pretty specialized group. There's not a lot of companies that do this kind of work, so that's why we have had a limited number of proposals for it.
Right.
And they're pretty much turnkey. Clean Harbors is going to pack up and go at the end of this month, and Clean Earth will be rolling in at the beginning of August, ready to roll with our August collection events.
So, Chad, the Clean Earth shows up from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania,
Yes.
but the other one has a Clackamas address?
Yeah, that's where their offices are located.
They are national?
They are both national, and Clean, get the names right, Clean Earth does have a service center, I believe, in Vancouver. So even though their headquarters are in King of Prussia, they have a number of facilities around the country. They don't truck everything all the way to Pennsylvania. There's some facilities on the West Coast that they use for their services.
Okay, you're talking in Vancouver, Washington, then?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And the concerns with Clean Harbor were, administrative, financial administrative, not necessarily with the actual operation of the facility.
Correct, yeah, their field staff were really good. And we've worked with both of these companies. We've been doing this program since about 2006. And Clean Earth was originally a company called Stericycle who had the contract before Clean Harbors. These two companies get very competitive on this. And it was an administrative problem, absolutely no problems in the field. But somewhat related to that is regulatory paperwork. We were constantly chasing paperwork that we had to share with the DEQ,
Right.
and that was a problem as well.
Yeah, we don't want that. I
No,
mean, we
no, we don't.
really don't want mishandling of hazardous waste, but we also don't want a whole lot of administrative headaches either.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So do we need a motion?
So, yeah, I'll move Chair's signature of his intent to award contract for household and conditional exempt generator hazardous waste to Clean Earth Environmental Solutions.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes?
And the chair votes yes.
There you go.
Okay. I see Dan's in the room. Sorry, Dan, I'll get you next. Chad, I believe you have the next item too, number 8.
Yeah, this is for renewal of an agreement with the Heart of Oregon Corps for providing support services for the solid waste department. I've heard Heart of Oregon Corps mentioned with the homeless shelters being constructed up in Redmond. We take credit for getting the Heart of Oregon established and going. We worked with Dave Holmes back in 1999 to help found their services, and we've been working with the Heart of Oregon on this program since that time. They provide, probably the biggest thing is litter pickup at our facilities. When people drive by not landfill and don't see litter, they usually don't think about us, but when we have a unfavorable wind event and there's a lot of litter around, they all notice not landfill. That service is a challenge. We have millions of dollars of infrastructure, and litter is one of the hardest things to deal with. Heart of Oregon that provides great service for us. Back in 2019, a question came up as to whether having this program continually awarded to them made sense. So we actually did a solicitation to see if there was anyone else out there that could provide the services. Heart of Oregon was the only people that submitted a proposal to us, so we were kind of back on track with this annual program with them. So what you have before you today is an amendment to the contract we awarded to them back in 2019 to provide the service for this coming fiscal year for a total of $225,000. And again, this is a time and materials program, so it depends on how many kids they have on the program for a given day they're working for us.
Tim, I do remember the first time I went to the transfer station for Fire Free, like, I guess it was probably in 14 or 15, and I had people helping empty, and there wasn't anybody helping this year at all.
Yeah, two things.
And last year, there were people that were like out there standing, kind of directing, but nobody I thought was there this time at all.
Yeah, and people have commented to us about that. Two factors there. One is the pandemic. When we did the Fire Free program the first year of the pandemic, it was hands off. People were on their own for it. And the ongoing challenge we all have post-pandemic is staffing. The Heart of Oregon has been struggling to get enough people on board. They've been having skeleton crews off and on with us, and it's because they just can't get people to sign up and work with them on it. We certainly would hope to get back to that. There's a lot of elderly people in the community, and when we do these fire-free events, getting the cars in and out as fast as we can helps a lot. And that was a big part of the service we were providing, and hopefully we'll get back to that where we have enough staffing from them to be able to do that. It's just these challenges we're all dealing with these days.
I know I'm hearing restaurants are operating with 14 to 18-year-olds that are their staff. I mean, they're prime staff, and what's going to happen when, those students go back to school?
Yeah.
So, and they're really the ones that are working. 2 days ago, I saw someone, I said, gee, are you 14? And no, she had just turned 15. But I mean, here she was working, incredibly responsible, professional. And I so worry about the employers of Central Oregon and who's going to be there to work.
These are certainly challenging times in that respect, yes.
I think Jules was on the news, this morning I saw them, that they now, they had to close their restaurant, but they're still doing catering. But, because they were short on staff.
Okay, so if we're plugging places, one of my favorite places, Croutons, had to close their restaurant on the west side. Fortunately, I live on the east side of town, so the one I use is still open.
I know, yeah.
Speaking of Heart of Oregon Corps and Fire Free and hazardous fuels reduction, I did want to note that Heart of Oregon, in conjunction with COIC, has secured one of these Oregon Conservation Corps grants funded through Senate Bill 762. So they are fielding whole crews of youth to help with hazardous fuels reduction efforts throughout the region, the Central Oregon region, and I can't help but think that there might be some down times for those crews. They'll be out with tools and chainsaws and things implementing hazardous fuels projects when they can. But I'm sure that there will be shutdown, operation shutdown type days when the fire risk is too high, or maybe days in the winter when it's too cold and wet to be out, in the woods, or at people's properties and things like that. So if there are any ways that you could imagine plugging those crews in to help with, our constant challenge at the landfill of processing all this hazardous fuels reduction waste stream, the byproduct of that work, so that it takes up less space in the landfill. There might be some opportunities there. The neat thing about that program is that it's initially fully state funded. So you do a project with the Oregon Conservation Corps group at Heart of Oregon, and it wouldn't necessarily cost us. It would be, it would hopefully be something that they could provide, services that they could provide to just help our efforts.
Speaking from my work history, I started ages ago as a landfill site attendant, and picking up litter was part of the job, and it's a pretty boring job. So we're always trying to find other things for the Heart of Oregon crews to do, just to get them a break from that. Doing that on a 10-hour day or 8-hour day is difficult.
Yeah.
So anything else we can do to get them away from that periodically is helpful. Yeah. We've had these conversations about yard debris. If there's ever a place to redirect that material to rather than the landfill, I definitely would like to hear about it. And unfortunately, short of what the Deschutes Recycling takes at the compost facility, it's all going to the landfill. Again, we're getting that beneficial use using it for alternate daily cover. That helps with our soil balance out there.
Right.
We need some other outlet for that material, because I know it's coming, and I know more is going to be coming over the years.
Yeah, and also just, the material going in, in some cases, during peak time, during fire free, like unchipped, like if there's just ways that we can compress the volume of the same amount of material to help us save landfill space. My gears are turning on how we use the resources that are coming through Senate Bill 762 to help us conserve on our landfill space.
I have to get together with Ed Keith to talk about fire free for next year. We may or may not be able to do it on the landfill property, depending how this renewable natural gas project goes.
Right.
So I'm going to be doing some strategizing with Ed to see if he has any possible alternatives for us as well.
Interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I see the crew pay and the youth labor pay and the total contract has gone up a little bit, so just acknowledging that. It's good to see us being able to calibrate with the market.
Yeah. Certainly the additional expenses has just come up from year to year, but also the Heart of Oregon is realizing they need to get a little bit more competitive with their pay scale, like we all have to these days. This wasn't really an unusual rate increase that we've seen historically with them.
Great. Well, I'll move board signature of document 2022-646, an amendment for an extension to the agreement with Heart of Oregon Corps.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So you actually did raise it 50,000.
We did, yes. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, they'll have people available.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge right now, is just getting
Right.
enough kids on board. Yeah.
Truly.
Part of what's bringing all those teenagers out right now is the incredibly high wages that they can earn.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You have a good day.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Chad. Okay, Dan, we can discuss item number 3, and then if you want to go to 9.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Sorry, I saw that Nixon email. It looks like number 3 got sent out or was
Right.
pulled from consent. You guys had some questions about that. I'm happy to answer those right now.
Right, I just wondered, are those 4 positions, any of those filled right now?
One of those positions is filled.
One, which one?
That would be the public health nurse 2. One of those is filled by a staff member currently. The other 3 are not. Health services, just as a refresher, health services presented on this on June 8th. These 4 positions are a mix of FEMA funds and OHA state funding. They asked for those positions through June, but they're all related to COVID. And I believe some of the feedback from the board was that we didn't know if we were going to need those positions at this time through June. So there was some verbal agreement that we would go through March, and so that's why this resolution is through March at that time, because they're mostly COVID focused, and it's just been tough to know exactly how long we're going to need folks for that.
Okay, all right.
And Dan, I asked to pull this item because I wanted to ask the other commissioners to reconsider the duration that we are approving extending these four. I really don't think that if you're putting out 3 positions that only run through limited duration positions that only run through March 31st, that we will have any success in recruiting decent applicants for those positions. And I think that if we could provide the full year or longer, it would help a lot from an HR perspective with the recruitment and retention.
And I'm happy to go back and talk with Health about that. I know that their original presentation was through June 30th, I believe, of 2023. So the only reason I'm not sure we could do a full year is because of the FEMA OHA funding. I don't know if it lasts that duration. I know it lasts until the end of June. And so if that's something that folks would want to consider, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, my recollection was that with that FEMA and OHA funding available, it would allow stretching of other resources, so that they were confident that they could make they could cover those positions through June 30th. So I guess that would be my request. I'd like us to consider that one more time. I really don't think that it is a good use of our staff's time to make them go out and try to recruit for a position that's only gonna that's 8.25 months, ends 8.25 months from now, when they're going to need to, that the amount of time it's going to take them to recruit for those positions is substantial as well.
Dan, what is the vacancy, do you know the FTE vacancy for the health departments at this moment?
Not off the top of my head, I do not.
Okay, all right, just was wondering which way it was going.
Well, we had a pretty vibrant discussion on this, and I do
Yeah.
support this order in this form, and bringing it back before the end of the year to have this discussion. This is outreach, support of COVID. It's still an evolving landscape. I understand the business case Commissioner Chang is advocating for here, but I'd like to keep, kind of a close eye on this. So this was our negotiated, kind of dates that we had talked about. It was a good, vibrant discussion on June 8th also.
So do you want to make a motion then?
Sir, I'll move Resolution 2022-052, extending for limited duration health service FTE within the 22-23 budget.
Okay, and I'll second it. Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
I actually had some further discussion, but I can save it till after the vote. No.
Okay. And the chair votes yes.
I would just like to say it again, that this is an inefficient use of our resources as a county. We are making our staff do busy work trying to recruit for positions that they will not be able to fill. And that, for a body that prides itself on fiscal responsibility, I think that is a fiscally irresponsible action.
So you're judging your other two commissioners by making those statements?
I'm just saying that I think
Pointing out,
that
I mean,
this
that's
is
just
a
kind of rude
fiscally
statements in
irresponsible.
front of us here, but go ahead and keep repeating them.
If you want to refute them, go ahead. We're here to use the resources of the people of Deschutes County efficiently and responsibly.
Dan, if you could just send at least me a report of the vacancy at Health, I would like to know. I know the vacancy report, we'll get it in a couple, if I could just get it through the month, It'll, do we have to wait 3 weeks to get that report, or is that report available like August 4th?
If you're asking for the report, we can get you the report, month to month to month, so you can see if we're trending up or down.
Okay.
For the last 12 months, if that works for
I
you.
would just like to see for all departments.
For all departments.
Yeah, I think all departments, that, like the 5th page in our financials that we don't see,
Sure.
probably wouldn't see until August 20th or something, and I really would like to know sooner, just because we know where the economy is shifting, and see how it's affecting us.
Okay.
Well, making health services go out and chase 8-month recruitments helps to perpetuate a high vacancy rate. So, I mean, we're not tracking market trends. We are creating difficult recruitment and retention dynamics for the county.
Thank you, Commissioner Chang.
You're welcome.
Okay, number 9, please. Dan, I believe that's you.
Right, so this is
Joining us.
Yeah, of course. And I think these next 2 items, number 9 and 10, could have been put on consent agenda. I think we just clicked on the action agenda in the schedule. But these have been spoken to by Health. One is consideration of Resolution 2022-053. It's just adopting a supplemental budget increase here for health services, specifically around their ESA program, the Early Assessment Support Alliance. It's just more state funding they're getting for $85,000, and we're appropriating that amount within the budget. And I believe they spoke to this on July 6th.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Could we have a motion?
I move approval of resolution number 2022-053, adopting a supplemental budget and increasing appropriations within the Health Services Fund and 2022-23 Deschutes County budget.
And I will second it.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes?
Mr. DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Just acknowledge that it's nice to know that it's kind of out there for a couple fiscal years for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So item number 10 then is the resolution number 2022-054, which is again an adoption of a supplemental budget for health services. This is related to House Bill 4004. I think the Health Department came and spoke at length about this on June 29th of 2022. And this was grant funds to behavioral health care providers to increase compensation to the providers. It's basically working on retention. And this was a fairly substantial amount, a little bit over $3.4 million in incentives and retention for that.
Yep, and Janice did a good job presenting when it came around, so this is the follow-up for the resolution.
Yep.
I know at that time, I remember asking her, I believe she said that even with giving a bonus and asking them to commit to 2 years, that like 25% of the people were still leaving. Have you seen any numbers like that, Dan?
I haven't seen any numbers, but if Janice said it, I would definitely believe that, yeah.
Okay,
I
well, I
think it's a
mean, that was
little-
something I remembered from prior discussion, so.
And I think it's probably a little bit early, but I'm sure health services can come back and, at some point in time, and tell you the impact of these retention payments if we're seeing, less folks leaving.
Right, and if people do have to sign some kind of documentation, do they not?
They do.
So we could probably find out in a couple of months how many people were willing to sign, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So is there any further discussion?
I'll move approval of resolution number 2022-054, adopting a supplemental budget and increasing appropriations within the Health Services Fund and the 22-23 Deschutes County budget.
Second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes?
And the chair votes yes. Thank you, Dan.
Mhm.
I believe you have item number 11.
Do. So this is going to be consideration of the American Rescue Plan Act funding and the funding proposals that we've had. We've had some recent proposals come in here and some last-minute changes, so I'm going to give some handouts here to the commissioners, if you don't mind. So in fiscal year '21, Deschutes County was awarded approximately $38.4 million in ARPA funds through the federal government. To date, the county has obligated over $37.6 million of those ARPA funds in support of coronavirus relief, childcare, affordable housing, and small business financial support, and expanded services to those experiencing houselessness and improvements in water infrastructure. Today, we have a planned conversation around the Sisters Park and Recreation District. They have a $25,000 proposal to increase childcare. I did have an email out to them.
So for clarity, we have a spreadsheet that we've been provided many times. Is this updated with the items you're referring to?
This is updated. When I did the agenda on the 13th, it was updated with Sisters Park and Rec, but since then, Furnish Hope, I spoke with Megan yesterday, and I believe I sent this to the board. That is an eligible proposal for $245,000 that I also put in there, and it's updated here. And then also, just today, the Giving Plate asked for a second donation of $225,000, which is also eligible, and that proposal is here as well. And so if we want to talk about that today, we can, or we can do it at a different point in time.
Yeah, so I'm just confirming, because I've got multiple copies of the spreadsheet. So
Right.
This is the latest one, and it's got
This is the
items
latest.
included. Understood.
Correct. So, yeah, there's Sisters Park and Recreation District. They asked for $25,000 to increase childcare. I think they said it was going to increase by 40 to 60 individuals, if I recall. I need to pull that up. But I did forward that to the board, so just kind of starting that conversation.
Would it be possible for that request of $25,000 to come out of that contingency in childcare, the $906,000?
So that's a different conversation. Certainly, if there was a motion to, I mean, it's related. If there was a motion to move the $906,000 in childcare contingency, which was contingency reserved for workforce funding for those childcare projects as it relates to neighbor impact, then yes, that $906,000, certainly we could move $25,000, but first we'd have to make a motion to
Okay.
move it out of there. So would you rather have that conversation first around that $906,000?
So we can,
Well, so you're
ahead.
supportive of Sisters Park District
Well,
ask?
right.
I'm
I was-
deducing, I'm just thinking.
I'm on the budget committee, and Jennifer and I had talked about this in May, and so I kept having to remind her that she had not sent in this request. So I didn't know if it was possible to come out of that contingency.
And this is, I reviewed it, but can you give me the specifics? So this is for staffing to expand the program, so there's more slots?
Yes, and I did ask Sisters Park and Rec for a little bit more specifics and haven't heard anything, or actually I did hear something back just this morning here. The $25,000 would be spent on recruiting and hiring additional staff to increase capacity, as well as the increase of supplies and materials that go with that. There are a lot of startup costs when adding a new classroom, like cot, shelves, tables, chairs, et cetera. This would allow us to add a new classroom without having to increase our fees. I just got that.
Without requiring them to increase fees, is that what you just said? Yeah, so
Correct.
they could expand their program. There are fees associated with it, so it would really give them the bump to be able to have a bigger program with reoccurring revenues. I'm just kind of thinking it through a little.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I'm overall supportive of this proposal. I have a couple questions about it, but I also don't see a need to connect this to the workforce pipeline funds that we've already allocated to neighbor impact. One of my primary questions was actually whether an earlier investment that we made might have some nexus with this project. When the Child Care Coalition came in, the Revillage project had indicated that they were attempting to do some work to stand up a site in Sisters, and there was some mention of Sisters Park and Rec District made at that time. So I just wanted to be real clear about whether funds that we had invested in, ARPA funds that we had invested into that Revillage project might be somehow combined or mixed or leveraging some of the resources that Sisters Park and Rec District is seeking right now.
And I did reach out to Revillage. I've not heard back from them yet on that specific question of if there was some kind of connection between their earlier proposal and this proposal at Sisters Park and Rec.
Commissioner Dare, you're tracking this request from Sisters Park and Rec. Do you have any, are you aware of any kind of a nexus between those two projects?
No, I'm not, honestly. This was something that Sisters Park and Rec, through their child care, they wanted to ask specifically for their program. And they did not, Jennifer didn't mention anyone else.
I do believe I spoke with Erica maybe 3 or 4 months ago, just in general about what their site was for Sisters, and they were still working on it, I think is what I heard. So they had one site in town, and it was not in Sisters at that point.
Well, so I'm not opposed to pulling out of this other workforce contingency reserve. I mean, it is kind of the same theme, and you're saying you want us to kind of formalize a movement of funds inside of our spreadsheet. It just shows activity, the fact that we are investing. I mean, it's kind of a it's a category. Yeah.
What I'm honestly worried about is that these projects, these infrastructure projects, have to be started by '24 and finished by '26. Isn't that the rule?
That is the rule.
That is the rule. So all of this funding that we did for capital, it's on a timeline.
It is on a timeline.
But the 906,000 contingency held at Neighbor Impact is for the out years of the workforce initiative. Those are not funds for capital projects. They are funds, there's a current allocation for the current year. That is helping to, develop internships, provide education and training, support, people who are starting childcares who don't necessarily understand the whole business framework for the operation that they're trying to start, and we're hearing some really good results from those efforts, those workforce pipeline efforts, and the intention behind the 906K was to ensure that there would be funds to continue those workforce pipeline efforts into the future. I certainly understand that. Hiring a couple, like maybe a couple people immediately at Sisters Park and Rec is also helping to expand the workforce pipeline. But the intentions are pretty different. So I don't have a problem with allocating a new 25,000 from our ARPA allocation to this project, but I would prefer not to take that out of our other commitments that we have made to the child care workforce pipeline.
Dan, have any small center capacity funds, has that contract been signed?
No, that contract has not been.
It's not signed.
Back to us and signed at this point in time. I did speak to Karen about, workforce. She did say they have 20 participants right now and have some more lined up on a waiting list. She also said that the money that came through the Child Care House bill was a tri-regional, that they don't have any allocations as of yet planned for that, but she did say that workforce, she was told, was not eligible. So those are the only things.
You're talking about the $8.2 million that the state
Correct.
allocated
Neighbor
for
Impact.
childcare in Central Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but my question was about the 500,000 that we said for, the small center capacity fund, that isn't, nothing has happened there either.
No, not that I believe. I don't think.
And I think that motion was made October 20th or something, so, last year. I mean, I'm just wondering if there are people out there that really need these funds, and, how can we help make it available to them?
So,
I know that COCC's program, they figured out a way to make that program run even more efficiently, and their success numbers are really to be credited. Spanish, English, childcare, and everything, and thank goodness we've got that one that seems to be ahead of the game.
yes. I can say that they do have we don't have the grant back, but they do have an application process and a questionnaire ready for when that grant is completed. But we don't have it back from them, and we sent it to them a few weeks ago, I think. So
Okay.
We sent them a draft, or they sent us a draft?
we sent them a draft. So we're waiting to hear back. Usually someone comes back, reviews it, and says, oh, well, can we change this or this? And I work with the legal department and risk, and we work on it, and we just haven't heard anything as of yet back from them.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that this all points, all the questions that we have, to me, points to, a good opportunity for us to bring the coalition back and kind of have a check-in with them, see how they're progressing with the various components of that big package. I would like us to do something like that before we decide we're clawing back any money. And again, I'm happy to support making a new $25,000 allocation to the Sisters Park and Rec District for their child care proposal.
So Dan, where is the 8.2 million that the state has allocated for Central Oregon? Where is that actually going to go? Because we're talking about almost 16 million for childcare, including the state 8.2 million, and I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're telling me it can't go to workforce, so where can it go?
I think you can go to child care and capital development. It's written fairly ambiguously. It's only about 2 sentences long, and I think neighbor impact is still getting some feedback from the state because of how ambiguous it is on what they can and can't spend. I'm not an expert on that particular House bill, so I wouldn't feel comfortable saying exactly where it can go. But I can say that Karen has said that they don't have any allocations planned for it. They're going to have a process whereby they send out applications, and folks from the tri-region area here in Central Oregon can apply, but they don't have anything fixed yet. She did say that workforce was not eligible, though, that they were told it was not eligible essentially because there's competing funding and another House bill for workforce potentially upcoming. That's kind of where we stand right now.
Something else we could learn about if we invited them back for, kind of a status update presentation.
Maybe who should we contact in the state then? It sounds like we need to hear from if their instructions are what, very minimal, maybe we need to ask them exactly what do they plan?
Mm-hmm. I'm happy to reach out to Karen and see who their state contact is, and
Okay.
we can
I think that'd be
investigate it
good.
further if that's what the board would like.
Dan, you brought us a couple of projects here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Giving Plate wants another $225,000. Furnish Hope is asking for what, $241,000? Is that right?
Well, there's one area where they have a budget of $241,000, which is on kind of the third page of their proposal. However, on the there towards the end of their proposal, I think it might actually be on the last page. Oh, sorry, the last page it says our goal is 245,000. Yeah, 245,000, and so I rounded up to be conservative, So it looked like there were two different proposals, the budgeted proposal of 241, but then at the last page it says our goal is 245,000, and it's kind of big and circled there. So I just assumed that was what they were going for.
Okay, because their letter says 241 on the second page.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, all right. So should we go through the 25,000 for Sisters first, and then do we need more time to look at these two? And then what about St. Vincent's de Paul in Redmond? I know they were asking, what, like for $1 million or something from us?
They've asked for the remainder of unallocated ARPA funds, but originally it was $1 million, right, or the remainder, and they need more space for food warehousing, essentially, and so they're looking at potentially buying or leasing a building, but they're trying to make some changes there. Yeah, I would go back to Sisters Park and Rec if there's support for that. We can always, if we do end up moving the $906,000 in contingency, we can always at that point pay the $25,000 out of that. It's kind of the same pot, but as of now, we can pay for it out of the balance if we're not going that direction.
Okay.
Mhm.
So is there a motion for that?
I'll move allocation of $25,000 of American Rescue Plan funding to the Sisters Park and Rec District childcare proposal.
And I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes?
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right.
And then,
Now we've got these big asks.
yes, I believe you're correct, Commissioner Adair. Their letter also states 241,000, so they are asking for 241,000. I did review this proposal. I believe it is all eligible because this is a component of affordable housing. Essentially, they're doing the furnishing for affordable housing all throughout Deschutes County here. And on top of that, the folks that they're furnishing for, I spoke with Megan Markin, are low income, folks that are homeless moving into housing, folks that need affordable housing, folks that are domestic violence victims. All of those are explicitly stated as eligible within ARPA. They're disproportionately impacted populations. So this whole proposal is eligible given the clientele that they are serving. And right now they are asking they basically are just having expansion. More and more folks we need affordable housing, we need furnishing for that affordable housing. They have $20,000 for marketing and development to cover that expansion, so folks know about them. They have some interim storage expansion of $25,000. There's $36,000 in transportation services. This is more for their own transportation, their personal transportation, as opposed to their fleet transportation. They have $40,000 in annual home essentials fulfillment, which is what we think of as furnished housing, dressers, weekly consumables, bed frames. They need to purchase a third towing vehicle and an additional trailer, which they have budgeted at $60,000. And in order to kind of take on this expansion within phase one build capacity, they're hiring 2 part-time positions, an administrative assistant and a store manager at a total of $60,000. And so this is just one part of total expansion after phase 2 that would be approximately $3.2 million, a little bit more than that, but they're just asking for this 241 to increase their building capacity and be able to serve more folks.
When I think of the basics, I think of food, clothing, and shelter, and this is the next thing, which is furnishings, which is a wonderful effort, but I'm not real excited about, using these dollars for that. There's more foundational needs in the community. It's wonderful to be able to provide a couch, a table, a chair, a bed, throw pillows, comforter, all that stuff. I'm not saying anything negative on it, but I'd be hesitant to step in this area. And as I say, if they're a vibrant, going concern, good for them. But I don't know that I'm excited about funding it.
that this is an organization that makes so many affordable housing projects work through by providing furnishings, kind of basic staple furnishings for those homes. So I certainly feel like some kind of an investment is merited, given the amount, the small amount that we have remaining. I don't know if I would support $245,000 at this point, though.
Well, the list they included in their packet is for 2020 to 2021, their financial donors. And so I'm hoping that, 21 to 22, they've got more people that are recognizing. I think Stillwater, all those apartment buildings south of town, they did every one of those. So I was trying to come up with a number that seems to make sense, that would at least get them going in the right direction. If we could do, like, the first three items, they have the marketing development, the interim storage, and transportation. That's, I believe is that 81,000?
36. Yes.
Well, I feel like just what they did for Veterans Village was outstanding. And, everything just looked brand new. So I really, I can make a motion to support them with 81,000, and that's, I believe, about a third of their ask.
Correct. It'll be slightly.
I would support 81 to 100,000, somewhere in that range.
Can we specify on the motion, just in terms of the contract language, is it for any of these items here? Or Commissioner Dare, are you?
No, I was just trying to come up with something, that I thought was appropriate. So a third of it, I'd just say the 81,000.
Okay.
That's your motion?
Yes.
Okay, second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
No, but just as to say, just for the reasons I mentioned.
And the chair will vote yes.
Okay, so that leaves us with the ARPA balance now after those two commitments of $641,298, and overall available funds for ARPA. There's still $1.7 million in health services for COVID-19 response or other public health necessities, and then we have the $906,000 in workforce. This proposal just came in. The Giving Plate proposal just came in today. If you want, it may be easier just to go over this at a different point in time, since you haven't had time to review it.
I think it would be appropriate if we wait.
Sure.
And they're actually having their major fundraiser this Saturday. And I'm going. So let's see how much money they raise at it, right?
There you go.
Great.
I know they do outstanding work. I know you personally commented how pleased you were to work with them. And so I acknowledge that. And, please, can we bring that back?
Yes, we can definitely bring it back, and I would just second that. Renee has been an absolute pleasure to work with. She's been very, as of almost all of the ARPA subrecipients, or actually all of them, but Renee's been very engaged in the process and learning a lot, and I appreciate it. So that's about it for new funding proposals. We're still evaluating a couple for eligibility, and then is the direction we're going then from the board to look into the state contact and speak with Karen Prow a little bit more about the workforce funding, the $906,000, is that?
I think we need to hear back from them because of the timeline, start by 24, done by 26. What, is the hospital working with the Little Kids program? Is that one going forward?
That is going forward, and we have been speaking with them quite a bit, and we're about to sign that. But they're definitely on top of it. I think all of the neighbor impact ARPA-related grants that are capital-related have gone out. And so has the St. Charles capital-related grant. We just need to sign it, and they need to sign it on their end. But as Commissioner Chang said, this is workforce. This is a little bit more about personnel and staffing for these new capital centers. And so we are waiting, and I'd be happy to ask them if they'd like to come back and speak, or would that be?
Well, it's been 9 months since the motion, so I do think we should have an update on what's going on.
Okay.
There could be a discussion about, the reoccurring revenue associated with those positions too, As time goes on, the market's going to evolve. A working parent with a young child is going to expect to pay X in the market, which is going to provide, X amount of revenue. We're talking about backfilling those positions. So, what kind of runway are they starting to see, if they have that information? But
Sure.
as I say, if it's going to be subsidized long-term, we should understand that. If it's just going to be a quick injection to get it all started, we should understand that too.
And Dan, if you could send the St. Vincent's in Redmond ask to us, I think that would be good. And just look and see if there's something in that we can pull out for them.
Okay.
Please.
And then I guess the last piece of direction I'm looking for from the board is, do you want this just to be around the neighbor impact piece? The Little Kits piece also merged St. Charles as well. Would you like basically the whole group to come back, including Revillage, and kind of talk about what they're doing?
Right.
Would that
I
be-
think we need to hear. We allocated millions and millions of dollars, and, I think it's important that we know what's going on.
When I'd be willing.
There's a lot happening, and it'll be great to hear a
Yeah.
progress update.
Great.
And it would also be good to prepare those folks that, for the question, the line of questions that Commissioner Adair was putting forward, what's happening with those $8.2 million from the state to go into child care capital investments, and how does that change, complement, leverage the funding that we have already allocated?
Okay. So we'll do a general child care update with all the participants or all the awardees, plus a more direct conversation about the 8.2 from the state, the 906 reserved for workforce, and if that's a reoccurring expense or not.
And I would let them know, let's look for an optimal time to have this, as in, if we're asking them to do it, a month before they're going to know good information, let's just stand by a month, just generically. I wouldn't think of it as you have to come on this date. It's more like, when's a good time? Are you going to know more information from the state at any certain time?
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, since the Ben Chambers Child Care Initiative, doesn't have regular staffing and funding anymore. I mean, this is one of probably the only places where we can have a kind of local level, regional level policy discussion about childcare in Central Oregon. So I think this is a neat opportunity to make this a substantial presentation and discussion opportunity. Not like we have to make it a hearing or anything, but
Partnership.
to give them enough time that they can kind of give us a real report back and tell us about what's going on in this very important sector of our economy.
Okay, I'll start working with Child Care Coalition and see when would be a good time, when they'll have that information, when we can start having that conversation as a partner.
Thanks.
Of course.
It's interesting because I know several young families, and they've worked it out such that one person works during the day and one person works at night in order to avoid having childcare to pay for it. So, that could be a bigger trend than what we can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's certainly showing up in work from home and hybrid workplace and all sorts of families make choices every day to be able to provide adequate child care and to be able to spend time with their kids.
Well, thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so should we'll have our lunch recess and come back or do you have any items now you wanted to cover, Nick?
We can, Chair Adair, unless Whitney is here, if you would like to discuss the firms to potentially interview for lobbying services, or we can do that this afternoon, whatever your preference is.
Well, sure. Go ahead. I just read this thing that said you need to stand up every hour or you're going to get really unhealthy. No. What? No, I'm just like, oh my gosh. But it's okay that you don't sleep 8 hours a night. That was another thing I read, so it's always fun. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Whitney Hale, Deputy County Administrator. I'm here to check in with the board on an RFP that we posted and closed in mid-June for state legislative representation and lobbying services. As the board is aware, we received 5 proposals in response to that RFP. The board scored and submitted scores to staff individually, and I've compiled those scores here and presented them to you. As you'll see, the attachment that I've provided you includes commissioners' raw scores as well as weighted rankings. And staff wanted to check in with the board today on next steps with this process. We outlined some options when we posted this RFP, and kind of, I think the place that we're at today is connecting with you and seeing if you'd like to conduct interviews with firms that proposed, and if so, which firms you'd like to interview. So staff has highlighted in the dark blue section of the paper that I've provided you the top 3 firms. That could be a potential place that we, have a line of demarcation and we choose to interview the top 3 firms. We could interview as many firms as the board would like to, or none at all if you feel like that's not needed. So just checking in and seeking your direction. Those interviews, since it's likely that we would have all 3 of you participating, one thought that Nick and I have had is that we could conduct them as kind of an afternoon component of a meeting that you may have potentially as early as next week to try to keep this process moving forward as we head towards the next legislative session. So certainly open to input and feedback that you may have on next steps in this process.
So when I think of each one of these companies, I kind of want to talk legislation and what do they see in the political world. But really, our mindset here is who's going to be the right advocate partner during the legislative session. I'm pretty comfortable. Obviously, we had some different opinions here. I'll just stop there and see where we go.
I guess I'll just say that I'm not really interested in interviewing PacWests, but if we proceed with, if my fellow commissioners want to interview them, then what I would really like to hear from them is how the services that they would provide under a new contract with a new scope of work and a different budget would be different than the services that we received, in the last long session and short session. I felt like PacWest brought forward a number of priorities, things that they thought would be priorities for us that were really off the mark. I felt that much of the progress that we made on really important legislative priorities of ours was not necessarily attributable to their work, but attributable to support from key legislators, or frankly, due to our staff's work. So I wasn't persuaded that they provided effective service in these last 2 legislative sessions. I was open to the argument that that their scope was too narrow and their resources were too small for them to be able to provide more effective services. But I would have liked to have heard that argument in their proposal, if that's the case. But their proposal didn't really. It was basically kind of us, more of the same, with a larger price tag, and so I didn't hear the specifics about this is how we would operate under a larger scope of work to provide you a more effective service, to get you more of the legislative outcomes that you want. And if we do choose to interview PacWest, then that is what I would like to, a specific thing that I would like to see during the interviews, during their interview.
So we're talking next week.
If that's what.
Right, I know, I mean, it would be ideal to meet
Completely
with them
your
next week
time.
because we've got deadlines, we've got to get legislation, by September. So truly, next week is probably a good idea.
That was staff's thought, and again, logistically, that might not be feasible, but we're certainly open to doing everything we can to make that happen, or at least to set up as many interviews as possible as the board would like to conduct, so.
Yeah, I would like to interview the 1, 2, and 3 of the rank.
Okay. Commissioner DeBonne?
If we can fit it in
I'm
next week.
supportive of that, yep.
Okay.
Gives us, just a great opportunity to talk to three groups.
Okay. So in the ranking sheets that the board returned, there was a section for potential interview questions, and I know that there are some questions that were already noted there, so I'll start there and I'll draft those, and I'll work with the commissioners to try to, staff will come up with a draft of interview questions that we'll seek feedback on in preparation for next week, if we're able to make that happen, and provide you a status update on if we're able to get those folks scheduled. I did also just want to check, we've had strong interest from proposers in sort of wanting to know where we are in our process and any updates that might be available. So if the board is comfortable, staff would plan to reach out to the firms that are not in that top 3 and likely inform them that they won't be included in interviews, and we're not considering moving them forward in the process, just so they have that information. Is that something the board would be comfortable with?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Let's be transparent.
Yep. I just want to make sure that those folks have information as soon as we can give it to them. And after we conduct interviews, we'll likely re-engage with the board and offer you the opportunity to re-rank those finalists based on that information that you received during the interviews. And then I'll come back to you in a meeting like we did today and check in for the board to have a discussion on potential next steps.
Great.
Great.
So then interview process will look like individual commissioners talking on a rotation, or a public meeting with the 3 of us?
I think either option is available to you, given the timing of kind of what we have ahead of us. We could look at all 3 of you participating in an interview as part of a board meeting, or we could schedule individual interviews as well. It's really the board's preference on what you'd like to see happen.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that through, because. Any thoughts, Commissioner Chang?
I'm open.
What was that?
I'm open.
Okay. So, well, I would be open to having a published meeting for all 3 of us at an off time also, just to get it scheduled.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, if we're going to meet, as a board, yeah, I'd be open to that.
And that's something we could work with Sharon on in terms of the board's availability and the.
Yeah, I don't know if we're available, but we'll try.
We'll do our best. Does that feel like a good path forward? Potentially just a noticed time for you to conduct those interviews as a group?
Perhaps next Wednesday.
Okay.
And then would we attempt to have them in person?
We can definitely look at that. I'm happy to indicate that that's an option, and if the board would like to communicate that it's a preference, I'm happy to communicate that as well, just
I
depending.
mean, I'd like to, a board in the public meeting, but on the floor as a roundtable instead of a tribunal situation, because we're looking for a partner here.
Okay.
Well, I mean, some of these are pretty big firms as well. I mean, if we're asking Public Affairs Council to come and interview, it would be awesome to have the 2 principals who are going to work most directly with us come in person, but we don't need the owner and everybody else.
Oh, yeah,
You don't
no,
wanna-
it just, yeah, because I think some of them refer to, this would be your lead person, and we'd have backup by these
Right,
people.
and just the lead person would be nice.
Okay.
So let's attempt in person and on the floor instead.
Nope, that's great feedback. We'll work, we'll reach out today and try to get that moving forward, and I'll coordinate with you on questions and updates as we move forward.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
I just wanted to be available in case you wanted to pull, we could probably do space. I don't know if Eric Conley is available.
Christie has.
So you're thinking we might be able to get her done here before noon?
She said Eric Money is on Zoom.
Oh, sure.
If we do the next two items, we'll be done? Is that the proposal?
I guess it is.
If the board chooses, Christie's also here. She has the draft.
Okay.
I am.
I just need, I need like a 2-minute break then? No, that would be fine. No, if we can do it this morning, that'd be lovely. I just want a 2-minute break. Got to get my walk in.
Okay.
We are back. Hello.
All right, thank you. Laura Skundrick, Administrative Analyst. Earlier this year, the board received a Q2 performance measure update from Environmental Health Supervisor Eric Money that falls under the county goal of healthy people, and that measure is to reduce outbreaks and foodborne illness by inspecting a minimum of 95% of licensed facilities such as restaurants, pools, spas, and hotels per state requirements. So since then, the board requested subsequent status updates from Eric, and he is here today per the board's request to provide you with a Q4 update, and I will hand it off to Eric.
Hi, Eric Money. Deschutes County Environmental Health Supervisor, and so you have obviously seen the Q2 and Q3 inspection numbers, and it's kind of been called out in a number of different formats by whether it's a blogger or the media, that those numbers are low inspection numbers. As you guys know, as far as context, we were completely, our whole staff, being environmental health specialists, we really have a skill set and communications with businesses. And so we were completely redirected, whether it was Delta or Omicron, to the COVID prevention and educational aspect of trying to prevent spread of this during the second and third quarters. Thankfully, with the numbers going down and some of the virulence and hospitalization numbers going down, we were able to get back out in the field around mid-March. And so our Q4 numbers, I think I shared the Q4 numbers for fiscal year 22, and I just wanted to verify if you have that in front of you or if you've seen that.
Yes, they're here.
On the memo, yeah, 426 for 861.
Yeah, and so I think some really good things are happening. It's we've done a little bit more than just easing back into the field. We're getting out there, and there's a lot going on with summer school lunch programs and events such as the High Desert Horse Classic today at J Bar J and Balloons Over Bend, all the farmers markets. Whenever there's people doing food service at these events, we're out there on the weekends and in the evenings. So there's a lot going on, and we're inspecting campgrounds and RV parks, and we're back out there at the pools and the food trucks and the restaurants. And so anyway, I think the numbers are very encouraging, and I think they're going to get higher, but it can't be overstated that if we're going to hit the FDA's number of 280 to 320 inspections a year, right now we're, if we were going full strength, trying to reach that 95% metric, which I think is a good idea to try to get all the inspections done. But if we get them all done, we're going to be going really, really quickly. And as I've said before, a very, very fast inspector is not a very, very thorough inspector. So for public health purposes, if we're not hitting that 95%, I think we're just going to need more help as the years go by and with the growth that we've been seeing. So I just wanted to see if you had any questions or if anything stood out on the numbers of inspections. It's pretty remarkable how the mobile food trucks, like the trucks, trailers, and carts. 10 years ago, we had 100 in the county, and now we've got 250. And 10 years ago, we had 0 mobile food unit pods or food truck lots. Now we've got 24 in the county. And so there's just been an explosion. So in April, May, and June of this year, we actually did 39 pre-opening inspections on food trucks and trailers and food carts. And it's been a really wild trend that we're trying to keep up with. But whether it's restaurants or food trucks, there's a lot of businesses that are opening and changing hands, and we're trying to keep up with all of them. Any questions on any of this report? But I just wanted to share that it looks like the numbers are getting a lot better as far as what we're doing in the field.
Eric, I wanted to say I'm really glad to see these numbers rebounding, but I also wanted to dig deeper than kind of the COVID impacts, because as we know, before COVID, our inspectors had some of the highest inspection caseloads in the state, and my impression is that we did not have enough FTE. And we had not identified the stable long-term funding sources to have more FTE, which is why we were asking people to carry such enormous inspection caseloads, and that was before COVID. And then when COVID hits, then that has all sorts of impacts as well. So I guess, could you take a minute to just recap for us what we have done and not done so far to address those inspection caseloads and right-size the staffing, and how we're paying for that?
Well, yeah, thank you for that perspective. We did have and will have some of the highest caseloads or inspection workloads per FTE in the state. And our numbers, as far as our growth, I don't think our staff has met the growth of the county population growth, and then the volume of restaurants and food pool and lodging facilities and RV parks and campgrounds that we're really growing, and that's great. As far as getting enough staff, you've seen presentations that we've done before where to get to the 280 to 320 just food service inspections alone, that's how many the FDA says one FTE should have in a year, a calendar year. And I've shared with you what that would cost and how many FTE we would have to have. Again, that's just for the food service side of our inspection workload. So the transient room tax funding that we've received is much appreciated. It's a whole lot better to try to get funding from there instead of telling a restaurant owner that, hey, we need, instead of $1,000 license fee, we need $2,500, so that we can balance our budget and hire more inspectors. That's just not, that's not practical. So anyway, I can send over the stats again, Commissioner Chang, on what it would take in a fiscal sense for us to get to the thresholds that we need to have the ample amount of inspectors, to meet the FDA standard.
Can you just remind me also, like, how many FTE have we added in the last 12 to 18 months? Like, and that's not, I'm not asking about kind of like a turnover in positions, but, kind of that, what is your FTE allocation, and how have we increased that to improve our ratios, but not get all the way to where we need to be yet?
Well, May 1st of this year, we added Carrie Cushman, and she's an environmental health specialist from Coos County that we hired. And so we've actually had a net gain of one health inspector, one FTE environmental health specialist in the last 7 years.
That is, given the amount of growth that you've described in restaurants and mobile food operations, that doesn't sound like very much.
Yeah, it's going to continue, and we're not the only county that's facing this. It's just that we're a county that is experiencing a lot of growth. As I said, in a 3-month period, we had 39 new mobile units open up, and it's at 3 months. Now, granted, they're gearing up for the year and for the main time when food trucks are open is summertime and events. A lot of them are open year round, but it's kind of a harbinger of the growth that we're experiencing, and with the event season upon us, and the campgrounds open and the festivals happening. It's been pretty overwhelming, and we're trying to also do some outreach into domestic well testing, and we've developed an indoor air quality program, and thankfully we haven't had to do a lot of work with that yet in a non-regulatory sense, in education and congregate settings, and trying to help vulnerable populations. Thankfully we haven't had the wildfire smoke yet, knock on wood, this summer. But we've developed a program to try to help out folks in adult foster homes and long-term care facilities, child care, schools, folks that could be having a real tough time if they're indoors with horrible indoor air contaminants happening and particulates from wildfire smoke. So we're trying to grow into what the modernization of a public health system should look like for environmental health. And so it takes capacity. But anyway, our numbers are getting better. And as far as field inspections and that prevention work, it's just going to continue. And that's what we're here for.
So Eric, how many people are part of your team then for environmental health?
We have 13 people on staff that are full-time employees total. Some, 2 of those are administrative, and not all of them are, the field inspectors, like I said, we have staff dedicated to not just food service inspections, because we inspect a number of different facilities, including school lunch programs and child cares and water systems. And so I try to compartmentalize, because the FDA standard really is myopically looking at just food service inspections. So if I just take that alone, and that's why I try to present on that, because there is this standard for food service inspections, whereas there's not really a standard for pools and hot tubs at motels and hotels and resorts. There's not a threshold for, hey, a guy should only have this many hotel inspections in a year or this many child cares. So I always kind of focus on that, because there is this gold standard that I can point to say, we have this many FTE for food service operations. It's supposed to be this, but right now we're at this. So Commissioner Adair, I hope I answered that question.
So you mentioned domestic well testing. So who is having their well tested? Is this something we've always done?
No, we got the emergency preparedness program within Deschutes County Health Services to share $17,000 with us. So we have $17,000 for doing testing of a private well. And actually today I'm going to be meeting with KTVZ, and this week and next week we're putting together a 30-second spot that'll air on KTVZ to share about the fact that some people have a private well and it hasn't been tested for a long time. So do you know what is in your water? And if you need help with getting it tested, give us a call. And so there's about 170 wells that we're going to be able to test for bacteria to see if they have that in their water. We're working with a local lab to test for that. And then when that money runs out, then it'll be done, but we'll still provide education to folks with private wells. We've been working with public water systems and community water systems for many, many years, but we've never really had the ability to help out folks with their private wells. So that's a pretty neat thing that's going to be launching. I don't know how busy we're going to be when the spot goes out and gives our phone number, but we'll see.
I know, that's what I was just thinking, that a lot of people are going to be calling.
Yeah, well, we want that phone to keep ringing off the hook. Got to stay busy.
Can you go just directly to the lab then with your water? Or does somebody have to go through the county?
We'll have our website, and then we'll have our phone number, and so people can reach out, and we just have a form for them to fill out. We're going to we have on our form, it kind of looks at, asks for income. We're going to try to help like low income folks first, and folks that need the help a little bit more than someone else. So we've got some eligibility requirements on the form. But we've just from word of mouth, we've gone out and tested 6 private wells already, and when the spot comes out on KTVZ, I suspect there will be a whole lot more going on.
Well, it can sure be just a reminder in the community to go ahead and have your water tested too. You know, I mean, not everybody needs the subsidy. You know, some people can just say, "Oh yeah, time to get my well tested."
Yes. Yeah, those are commercially available services. Eric, before we leave off the COVID, considerations. I mean, I am glad that COVID-related business technical assistance is not eating your lunch as much in the last few months as it has been, so to speak. But there definitely exists the possibility of that workload surging again. And one of the things I'm wondering about is we see how there are resources for COVID response, coming from different directions, for different things. We were just having a debate about, COVID, resources available to, have staff COVID hotline and run vaccination clinics and things like that. I'm just wondering, since COVID has had such a substantial impact on the environmental health staff resources, and in a very particular way, right? You have, as you said at the beginning, you have the skill set of communications with businesses about health-related issues, and so it's not like your people are staffing the COVID hotline for us. They are providing a specific type of COVID response. But I'm just wondering whether it might be possible for us to use some, to look at some of the COVID response funds that are available and to allocate some of those towards environmental health so that you would have more resources to work with to address your workload. Both your core work and this sort of on top, COVID response workload that you're facing, and this is, I'm saying this to you, but maybe what we should be doing is saying this to Cheryl and other financial people over at Health Services. Just would it be feasible to shake the trees, the COVID trees, a little bit to create a little bit more funding resource or resource predictability for environmental health, so that you could increase your capacity as needed to be able to both do your core work and respond to COVID as needed?
Well, one of the things that I've looked at over the past several years is having stable funding. And that's key to me. I don't ever want someone to move from Virginia to work here and we say that the funding ran out. Really sorry about that.
Right.
We're gonna have to cut you back to half-time, or we're gonna have to let you go. So with whether it's ARPA or some other COVID funding source, I get a little hesitant about looking at that money and bringing someone on temporarily, because first of all, we've seen it's incredibly hard if it's a limited duration position on the HR website. People are really hesitant to uproot and move here and even apply for the job with environmental health if it says limited duration. And so when the board approves a regular position, that's incredible for our staff. And then people start applying and we can look at new folks to add there. And that's been kind of the tradition there. So with temporary money, Commissioner Chang, it's just really hard to think about hiring someone for a short period of time when you don't know if that funding is going to be there for the next 18 years or 18 months.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. We are, you know, COVID is this highly unpredictable kind of X factor in our work, and we've seen various kinds of responses to that out in the workplace. So to the extent that it's possible that this will still be an issue for the next, 6, 12, 18 months. I hope we can be thinking about, again, just how we can get you the resources you need to be able to cover your core work, as well as addressing the call of duty of COVID response, which as you've mentioned, is your staff responds to in a very unique way.
Well, Eric, I want to thank you and everybody for, taking care of business. This is, food safety, environmental health at its finest. We do have a vibrant, food service industry, a lot of history there. Restaurants are struggling right now, and I'm sure they're having turnover and new employees too. So getting your food safety card and then understanding the commercial kitchen and then food service, there's a big learning curve. So keeping up the education process at all times is really important. And I know we do that. And we talk about it each year at the budget. Are we going to take that step for the next FTE? How much would we raise fees? How can we subsidize it? How can we subsidize it long-term? So, I mean, it's serious business every year. We know it is. And, but we've got a great culture of that food service industry here in Central Oregon also.
Eric, how long have you been running the program? How long have you been with Deschutes County? I didn't.
That's good. He doesn't even know.
I didn't mean to ask such a.
Does that mean you've been here so long you don't know, or?
No. I just want to thank you so much. I know the last couple of years have been really difficult, but truly, my experience the last couple of years working with you, you have been outstanding at your position, and I'm glad that you're not counting the days or the weeks or the years.
Yeah, or maybe you want to count each of the last 2 years as 5 years.
Yes.
When you give us your answer.
Well, it'll be 26 years this November. And as you guys probably know, we were part of community development for a long time. Environmental health split off about 12 years ago to be under the authority and umbrella of Deschutes County Health Services, leaving the environmental soil septic work back at community development. And so, yeah, we've seen a lot of stuff happen, and the COVID deal is the pandemic has added about 15 minutes, it feels like, to our inspections. A lot of education, and hey, do you still want to talk about some personal protective equipment? And there still are a lot of folks that have a lot of questions for us just about COVID, and we're there to check the refrigerators and the safe food handling practices. And what I want to share with you guys is the industry turnover in the hospitality industry. It's been unbelievable. So there's all new ownership in some situations, management, chef, food, the sous chef, the dishwasher, just a completely different cast of crew and characters that we're educating. And so that's taken a lot of time. And so if somebody says, why aren't your inspections where they should be and it's been a learning process, a relearning process, getting back out there in the field with the amount of turnover there has been. But you guys have always been really supportive of environmental health, and I just appreciate the opportunity to come and kind of talk about our program and kind of reset the context of a disparaging editorial that may come out from time to time. So appreciate it.
No, thank you, Eric, for your 26 years. I never dreamed that you were going to say 26, so I guess that's why you had to think about it. But like where you guys are taking on the well thing, you didn't want to leave that with CDD? No?
No, we have a very robust drinking water program existing and have for many years. So it just is second nature and goes hand in hand with the work that we have been doing with public systems to try to help educate Deschutes County folks on private wells and hey, has your well been tested in the last 20 years? And people, just might be a nice little awareness and educational situation where folks, we can teach them how to get their well tested, and a few of them will actually come out and test the water for them, get the sample and send it in till that 17,000 runs out. So anyway, a lot of really good things happening in environmental health.
That's interesting because I was told yesterday I needed to get my well tested. And so I can't believe today's conversation, just to see what's in the water.
Yeah.
I know. It tastes great. So I'm sure, well, I'll find out, right?
Well, yeah, if you know my number, and so and you have my email, and so just get a hold of me. Like I said, the first 170 folks that qualify, and that'll be most everybody, will come out and sample the well if it's a private well, and get the results back to you as soon as we can.
Well, I didn't want to ask for anything special, but it was something that I was told to get done. So I'm like, well, how amazing is this? What a coincidence. So, great. Well, please come back to us. I'm glad to hear you said, you have 7 health inspectors? We're up to 7 now, but you have 2 administrators and then 11 people totally that are actually out in the field doing different jobs. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And even though the fact that we see restaurants that are like now closed on Wednesdays or they're closed on Tuesdays, they still have to be inspected because they're open the other 6 or 5 days of the week. Even though, they're trying to, save their staff or whatever, they still have that inspection in their future.
Yeah. Yeah, we go to La Pine, for example, and try. We have 4 restaurants that are overdue for inspections. I'm just picking on La Pine, but it could be Sisters or Sun River or Terrebonne or Redmond. And so we have this many files with us, and we're geared up and ready to do these 4 today, but 2 of them, they're closed on Wednesdays now. And so we can't do it. And then we have to go back when they are open and reach out and say, what are your hours? And there's been a lot of fits and spurts and starts and stops with certain restaurants and across the board on when they're open. As you guys probably know, you might go to a restaurant at 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night where you've gone for many years, and you're thinking, wow, they're closed now. When did you start closing at 7 in the evening? And so that the hours and days of operation are changing rapidly, and we find that out sometimes when we show up to do an inspection. But anyway, yeah, so it's a pretty dynamic time.
No, I was talking to someone the other day in Sisters, and there were 3 restaurants they tried to go to, and they were all closed. I think it was during the week. So, yeah, it is dynamic. And, appreciate hearing from you.
Thanks for the update.
Yes, appreciate the update. Let us know if you need that extra person.
The answer is yes. We just got to fund it.
Yeah, well, let's work on funding.
I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you, commissioners.
No, thank you. Thank you for 26 years. That's great.
And for leading a team doing such challenging work during the past 2.5 years of the pandemic.
All right. Okay, Laura, I believe we're now to the Spay and Neuter Grant Awards.
All right, thank you. So now I'm here for a 2-part grant item, the first of which is this year's Spay and Neuter Grant Program. So in your materials today, you have the applications that we received and the Dog Control Board of Supervisors funding recommendation for this year's awards. To provide some background on the program, these grants are made possible by voluntary donations of residents and then supplemented by the county's general fund. In May, you approved a total of $11,000 for multiple awards. We then issued a news release posted a solicitation and notified past applicants of the available funding. 6 applications were received in response to the solicitation, and those applications were then reviewed and evaluated by the Dog Control Board of Supervisors, whose scores were averaged to provide the recommendation that you have with you today. So these donations are offered to local nonprofit organizations which provide spay and neuter services in Deschutes County for both feral animals and pets whose owners are unable or unlikely to access or afford the procedure. Grant funds may also be used for educational or promotional programs focused on encouraging or expanding spay and neuter procedures in Deschutes County. To be eligible for the program, applicants must be designated by the Internal Revenue Service as 501c3 tax-exempt organization located in Deschutes County and able to certify that grant proceeds will be used to support services benefiting Deschutes County residents. So today I'm seeking board direction on the grant awards for the 2022 Spay and Neuter Grant Program. And if you'd like, we can begin by going through the applications, or I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
So there were 6 applications total? And 5 recommended for dollars? I'm just looking at
I'm
the
sorry,
back.
5, we received 5 total.
Oh, yeah, okay, 5
We
total.
received
Okay, I was wondering, yeah.
6 evaluations back from the dog board.
Got it, I was,
5
yeah.
applications. Sorry.
Well, yeah, so as I say, after going through all the applications and the dog board's work, it basically kind of splits 5
It
ways.
does, yeah.
$2,000 for everybody, plus a little bit more. So I've read and reviewed, and I want to thank the dog board for their efforts. I don't know that we need to go through each application at this time.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative of the dog board's efforts in reviewing, shaping up this solicitation, reviewing these proposals, and I'm comfortable with their recommendations.
Great. They did a very thorough review, each of their evaluations.
It was interesting, the Humane Society's IRS letter was from 1989, so that was good. They were able to find it. I think it's important that we help the community. I don't know if you're watching the news now, but it's really sad. You're seeing people are returning their pets because they cannot afford them. And I don't know, I saw a story yesterday, and they were pets that had been in their family for a while, but with inflation, with food, groceries, and gas being so high, people were taking their pets. So I feel like this is appropriate that we can help with these organizations at this time.
Great.
Will surely make a difference for them.
Yes, it will.
With that, I'll move the recommendations for the 5 applicants as provided by the dog board for the $11,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you so much, Laura.
Yes, so I have one quick second piece of this grant item. This is a follow-up to our discussion last week about our fiscal year 23 quarter 1 discretionary grant applications. The board requested to follow up on 2 of those applications, one of which was CAMP, because they were also an applicant for the spay and neuter grant program. So now that we know they've been awarded $2,161 through the spay and neuter grant program, we can, if you'd like, reevaluate the discretionary grant funds that were requested. Their discretionary grant request was for $1,489.79 to purchase marketing materials for their community and outreach events.
Okay, so they actually are getting more than what they had requested here.
Well, but for a completely different function.
Right.
What they requested through the spay and neuter grant program is to spay and neuter the animals, and what they had asked for here was essentially assistance with marketing their service.
Exactly.
So, and I'm still comfortable with putting $250 towards that.
Great, thank you.
Towards that service.
And I can do 250 also. That'll give them $500, and that should be helpful.
And I'll do that also.
Great, great. Thank you so
I
much.
was wondering what you can do, Commissioner Dare. I was just waiting for you.
Okay.
All right, and then one other follow-up item. The second application we were going to follow up on was Prideville. I followed up with them regarding kind of their impact on Deschutes County residents specifically, and through our conversation, they decided to pull their application from this quarter, feeling like it wasn't the right fit at this time. So that's the update.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, commissioners.
So do we have any other items?
I believe Christy has a letter that she'd like to discuss related to the Lapine Community Health Center.
Okay, and I just wanted to say that I know you probably saw the email this morning from Jeff that they've had another bird incident, so the birds aren't going to be at the fair. And then the fact that the auction starts promptly at 10 p.m. on Saturday morning, the FFA and the 4-H auction. They're actually going to fence the arena for the whole week, so it's all consistent with the rodeo, so that the auction truly should be done by, usually it's done about 6 p.m., but that it will be done, and the rodeo is going to start at 7:30. So just to make sure that there's no confusion for those two different events and those incredibly important events.
And just to follow up, our new staff member, Eric Brianna, is working closely with Jeff to provide photo and video support to the fair, and we've flagged the auction as a particular focus area, so we're working to help support Fair and Expo with kind of capturing this year's fair.
You know how important it is, because a Central Oregon rancher last year did not have professional pictures, and I got to read all about it, and it was, it's really, I think, it's an amazing highlight. And honestly, the horse show for 4-H kids is going on now, and that doesn't really get any press. I know, it's just amazing. My neighbor is down there with a couple of her horses, and I'm going like, we really need to get that some press if that's at all possible. I think it starts today. And so, anyway, yes, if Eric could cover those. Yeah, I really feel badly that they're not part of the fair, the official 5 days of the fair. Christy.
Hello. Again, for the record, Christy Bollinger, Deschutes County Property Management. At the conclusion of a recent executive session, board had directed staff to draft a letter of commitment to go to Lapine Community Health Center, and the purpose of this would provide the opportunity to move forward and look at terms of a potential lease for health services, specifically behavioral health, to occupy about 6,000 square feet in the soon-to-be-developed new Lapine Community Health Center. So we've drafted this letter. We ran it by Charla, the executive director of the health center, and she's good with the content. So again, this would just provide the opportunity to sit down and kind of see what kind of terms we could come up with, and we would bring that back to the board for consideration. So with that, I'll pause and answer any questions you might have.
Can you just remind us who the sort of the audience for this letter is? Who does the Lapine Community Health Clinic need to demonstrate to that we are a potential partner in the project?
My understanding would just be funding opportunities, so I'm not sure if that's probably a combination of public and private funding opportunities. Just showing that the county has interest in it will, I believe, go a long way with that process.
So last Friday morning at the Lapine Chamber of Commerce, they were the presenter, and it was the big unveiling to the business community of Lapine, the fact that they have this opportunity. They've got some federal funds, and they're putting a package together. This was not mentioned. Charlotte looked at me and I looked at her, because we both knew this was out there, but this was unveiling it to the community. Also, there's going to be a direct community ask for some funding, whatever they can come up with, and a commitment for us to take, majority of a floor. I don't know how much of a floor it is valuable for everybody to understand. Consolidating services, a tenant that's committing to, being a partner in this and all the big picture. So I'm supportive of this letter. Let's, empower them to be able to do the best job they can here. It's a big idea. Charlotte said that she was off at a national conference and somebody mentioned, a model like this, and she couldn't stop thinking about it, and she knew that when she started shopping around, everybody's like, yeah, that might really work, especially for a growing community like that. So she was sharing her excitement as the outgoing director, but her excitement knowing that this thing's possibly and probably over the hump, because it's just a bare lot right now, but it's coming together.
And actually, if they can provide more services in South County that aren't being offered there, where people don't have to drive for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, I think it's really outstanding. And, the fact that it's 30,000 people now, considering, going out to Christmas Valley and everything, it's the closest medical facility for that community. And
Maybe you change the block around and put LaPine Community Health Center above Charlotte's name, just because that's we're giving it to the health center. Charlotte is definitely the CEO, but, it's less her personally, the more just the entity, the group, the health center. I don't professionally, I don't know if a letterhead would work like that, but that's just an idea. Put LaPine Community Health Center in front of her name.
If we're trying to impress funders with this letter, I wouldn't mind adding a little bit of language just to kind of emphasize again how cool this is to offer behavioral health and physical health services in an integrated way. So that the second paragraph, maybe we could add, that will allow the residents of South Deschutes County and beyond to have easier access to these much-needed services in an integrated and coordinated way, because there really is like some very exciting synergy that comes from co-locating.
Maybe even just put that whole paragraph first, so we're really advocating for this co-location opportunity, and then the business case of we are committing to negotiating about leases. So just lead with that whole
Big
thing.
picture, that I like that. And in what's currently the first paragraph, which will become the second paragraph, maybe we could say instead of using the word increasing, like something like expanding, which will result in improving and expanding healthcare services in South Deschutes County.
Okay.
Do we, if this is for funders, do we want to be even more enthusiastic, or is it okay, just the way it is?
Charlotte was, she liked the letter, so
Okay.
I'm sure these changes will be just, add value, so.
I'm used to writing letters of support for grants where you gush, right? So,
instead of saying NNN costs, is it triple net costs? Is there terminology that would make more sense?
Yeah, I can definitely change it.
Great. Thank you, Christy. If you can get that back to us.
So I'll move approval of this letter in its discussed form.
Second?
Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you.
Christie.
Anything else?
So another note from the chamber meeting on Friday morning, the rodeo queen, Carol, the queen advisor, and Roxia were all at the LaPine Chamber breakfast and talking about the great rodeo coming up, and Roxia was able to talk about the rodeo itself, and then the fair was mentioned, so pretty exciting that they're able to come down there annually and join in the chamber breakfast. I think I got a photo. Did I send you one, Whitney? I'll have to do that.
That would be great. I don't know that I've seen a photo.
Yeah, I'll
of
send
the
it.
breakfast, but feel free to send it.
Yeah.
out.
The queen looked so fabulous in the Redmond parade. She's doing a great job, and she looked really good in the grand entry when several people were going off. She can actually ride, and she looked really good. So that's always nice to know.
To college in Texas, too, after this.
Well, that fits. So anyway.
And I think she wanted to be a large animal vet, too.
Well, let's only hope so, because they're in short supply. Which school is she going to in Texas?
I don't remember. But we were talking about
Well, it's either
Alabama.
A&M or it's, if she wants to be a veterinarian, it would be A&M
Probably is, but I
in
don't remember.
College Station. Oh, great. Anything else?
I'll just mention that I attended the Sun River Chamber meeting last week. Had to do it virtually because of my COVID exposure. And had a great conversation with the Sun River Chamber Board. They've mentioned a couple of things that they would like the county's assistance in exploring. One of which was gaining a better understanding of what essentially what the development regulations for the business park are. So I connected them with Will Groves over at CDD to get some of that information to them. There was some specific interest in a commercial on the first floor, apartments on the second and third floor type development in the business park, and they didn't know whether that was allowed or not. So that was one piece. Another one of the other things that they were very interested in was whether there might be some way to replicate isn't the right word, but do something like the Ride the River shuttle in Bend in the Sun River area, because as we all know, there's just a phenomenal amount of river use, people putting in one spot and then wanting to take out in another spot and wanting to get back to their car and their lodging, and it's as we know, it's causing a lot of congestion, safety issues, and kind of probably environmental impacts from all that, all those people trying to park in places where maybe they're not supposed to. So I put them in touch with folks at Cascades East Transit to explore the feasibility of that idea. That's all I've got.
Oh, last Friday morning, I had the pleasure of listening to the team of people that have the New Priorities Family Services in Redmond. They're, I believe, going to be back up to 21 counselors. They do mental health and substance use disorder work. Their leader, Karen, was particularly compassionate and really proud of their program. So trying to let them know that there is perhaps ARPA funding that can help their 501c3, but truly they're doing a need that's very dynamic, and it is a nonprofit. So that was great to hear that team of people. So thank you. Anyway, anything?
One other note. So the fair crew. So Dolly Gregory was there too. She's the Grand Marshal this year. So I just remembered. Oh yeah, I'm glad I looked at my photo. So 4 people were there. I wasn't even thinking. So Dolly really, shared a lot in her history, and her husband being the teachers up at Warm Springs and in the Redmond area for the last 50 years. And they're still involved and retired many years. But yeah, Dolly Gregory's the Grand Marshal this year, and she was there also.
That's so sweet. Yeah, it's great. She looked really cute in the parade too.
Mm-hmm.
I know, it was great. Oh, good. All right, so nothing else? No legal? Okay, thank you, Whitney. All right, so let's adjourn, and we will be back in session next Monday afternoon at 1 p.m., I do believe.